We should be live. Are we live? Is it going through? Giving it a second for the stream to pop up on my other side so I can verify. Are we? Okay, we are. Good. Hello, everyone. Yet again, we are checking out another CR-Volcanic. Yet again, what? We've only done one of these. Why am I saying yet again? Like, this is what we do every time. Regardless, we are checking out another CR-Volcanic video on monsters from Monster Hunter spinoff games that I never played. And this time around, we are checking out the exotic monsters of Monster Hunter Explorer. Hey, man! Good to see you. I am, real quick, running through tech checks on the side monitor while I'm trying to pad for time to make sure it's working good, and hopefully we don't have a repeat of last time. Also, I think I fixed the audio balance issue the last one had. I should be about equal volume with the video this time, so hopefully that's not crazy out of whack. Let me make sure that is good. Everything's good? Yep. Okay. We should. And then it messes up on me right as I say that. Okay. Really? Really? We're doing this. The second I think you're good, okay. Okay. At least this time the technical difficulties were fixed pretty quick. Alright. Let's get into it. Yeah. It is. Oh, school is out now, isn't it? Wow. Time flies. Alright, let's get into it. Once again, thank you to CR-Volcanic for okaying me to do this react stream. I probably will check out at least one more of your videos after all of this, because I saw you had one on my boy Legicris called The Monster That Made Me. And given that I am a Moog hunter from Moog Village, try was my first game, looks pretty interesting. But for now, we will be checking out what Monster Hunter Explorer had to offer.
Hey guys, real quick before we start the video, I want to direct you to the community tab on my channel. I am currently running an event for you, the viewers, to rate every single Monster Hunter monster from 1 to 5 stars. This project is going to be...
Actually sounds pretty neat, but I do think that this video is like... Yeah, it's 2 years old. There's no way this is still running.
Run back from the 20th anniversary popularity poll and is meant to allow everyone to voice their opinion on every monster.
I can accept Legicris being third.
So we can get a big picture look at how the whole community feels about the entire Monster Hunter bestiary. There will be a new poll on the community tab every single day at noon Eastern Standard Time, and all polls will remain live on the channel, so you can answer any of them.
I'm gonna let this play because I'm watching his video. Let him get the full time of it.
All the way from now until the end of October, when the last polls have been run.
This is already over.
In October or November, we're gonna have a massive video event where your comments will be read, all the numbers will be crunched, and the monsters will be reordered based on how you all voted. Every vote on every poll matters, and anyone has a chance to have their comment read in the video itself. And if you want to help me get more data and reach...
And let me know if you want me to check that video out, actually, because I think it'd be interesting to see what his community voted as the top monster.
The broader Monster Hunter community, I'd appreciate a like on this video and, you know, maybe hit the subscribe button to help this channel grow. It'll put me and this project in front of more eyes. Okay, no more YouTuber CTA shilling. Here's the video you actually clicked on.
Actually, yes, more YouTuber shilling, because I'd really appreciate it if you like and subscribe here as well. Just saying. Alright.
Thank you. And then...
But yes, go check out CR-Volcanic too. Give him the love. This video that we're watching will be linked in the description of the stream.
There was one.
All I know going into this about Explorer is that it had a rocket-powered axe, and then there was an Earthbender Legicris. But... But one thing I can say from the very first frame of this is that is Area 8 of the Deserted Islands. The Deserted Islands map is etched into my soul. That is Area 8. You can drop down into Area 11. And you can climb up to it from Area 11, or go in from the one cave where there's always Kelby or Jaggy, and there's always a Sharpening Stone Gathering Point. God, I've played Monster Hunter Tri way too much if I can remember that after not playing it for nearly a year. Oh yeah, feel free to spam the commands. I don't think they have a time limit, timer on them at all. There's a couple that are random, couple Monster Hunter themed ones, and one Yu-Gi-Oh one that I did back when I was doing some Let's Plays of that.
A little over a year ago, excited by the possibilities of Espinas emerging in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, set out to create a top 10 list. My personal top 10 monsters from non-mainline Monster Hunter games that I wanted to see brought into the next Monster Hunter title. And the task proved itself to be impossible, because
there's a lot of them.
There were too many good monsters, too many good ideas, too many creatures that deserved their due, far too many amazing creations that were underrepresented, underappreciated, misunderstood, and simply unknown. So I decided to cover all of them, from all 12 years of Frontier to the Chinese-developed MMO Monster Hunter Online,
which had some really interesting monsters in it.
And now, the mobile title, Monster Hunter Explore. And this was the right call. It added a lot of extra hours to my work schedule, and it rapidly heightened my expectations about my own work ethic, but it was absolutely for the best. I earned a lot of very dedicated fans with that first video, started to make a bit of a name for myself, realized that this ambition wasn't some silly pipe dream, and hell, I'm even playing Frontier now. You can catch me live on Wednesday nights if you're really interested.
Oh yeah, the fan servers for Frontier do exist. Maybe one day I'll look into that. Let me know what you guys think. Should I look into maybe figuring out how to connect to the Frontier fan servers? I have no idea on a lot of the stuff with that. I would have to do a lot of research if I wanted to actually seriously consider it, but let me know if you'd be interested.
We are on video number 4, and the last of the 3 games that I need to cover. Explore is a bit of an unfortunate title. It's an obscure game that lived for about 5 years, and it might have eventually seen a full international release, as it did make its way to Canada before being decommissioned in 2020. It faded away at around the same time that Frontier and Online did, as...
Kind of sucks that it faded, but yeah, I might. It all depends on, like I said, if I can figure out the trustworthiness of it, and I think it's an illegal gray area. I don't know. I'd have to do a lot more research on it.
Monster Hunter
the fan servers for Frontier
centralize itself in a whole new world. It was built atop the framework of Monster Hunter Tri Ultimate, using primarily
Yeah. Kind of figures it was built off of Tri, because again, I recognize that map area immediately from Tri.
Generation assets, and eventually bringing in some 4th generation monsters and zones later on in its lifespan. It added a variety of new attacks and abilities for each weapon, and even boasted its own unique creation, that being the Excel Axe. It brought in a 6th element in the form of Earth.
What would Earth Blight even be? I mean, we're gonna get the answer to that, but unless it's like just the Mudman status effect, what would an Earth monster even be? I mean, if you feel if there's a thematic moment to hit the sound effects, feel free to go for it. But ultimately, that's up to you guys. I set them up for you guys to have fun with, so.
And used it to create its own unique creatures, as well as reinvent some of the classics. It had its own charming spin on a Monster Hunter story, where you went delving into various mysterious islands, seeking battle and treasures as you progressed through the narrative, and
that sounds interesting.
From locale to locale in what looked to be a wide-spanning adventure. It boasted very few
If this doesn't go into the story of Explore, I might see if I can find one that actually covers its story.
fully new monsters, but those it did create were rather stellar, and it brought a massive deluge of
I was about to question if that was a crossover armor, but then I realized, oh no, that's just Brachydios armor. For a second, I thought it was an Evangelion crossover.
monster variations, some legitimately intriguing and feasible for a main series entry, and others endearing crossovers and goofy gag monsters that gave Explore a very charming personality. And all of
I'm fine with Yeah, there is a bit of a delay, but I mean that's how it is. I might be able to make the delay a little shorter in upcoming streams, but that might cause it to visual crunch if I do that.
these monsters are, of course, the focus
Great Jackie! Best first large monster.
of today's video. Now, due to the limitations of Explore
Also
being a mobile game, a fair bit of these new monsters
Okay, I can already tell a good chunk of this is just going to be me going, it's the monster from Tri, I love them! Because I love Monster Hunter Tri so much.
lack some of the depth of ecology and movesets that the monsters of Frontier and Online had. With some of these monsters, there's just not as much meat on some of their bones.
There is not a single third-gen monster that I don't like.
I will, of course, judge them by their merits as they are.
Yeah, that was the correct grammar, I think. You know what I mean.
In Explore.
Gurapeko being another one I really think should show up in Wilds.
But for the sake of analysis, I will also do a little extra legwork trying to see what these monsters and variations may look like in a proper Monster Hunter games context, where they can get themselves more fleshed out. I do want to make sure that there is some solid substance in this video akin to that of the previous three. Thus, the potential of these monsters will factor more into their scoring and analysis than it did for the monsters of the other videos in this series.
Now, I don't think that'll change how I've been ranking them that much, because the potential of what they could be in current gen games is how I've been looking at this the whole time anyway. So,
the monsters of Monster Hunter Explorer do seem to have a bit of a fighting chance to be recovered from the annals of obscurity. Unlike Online, Explorer and its rights are still very much owned by Capcom.
Well, that's good. That means if there's one of these that I really like I did some of the online ones, more of a chance.
And some of these guys have actually turned up somewhat recently.
Really?
Within Capcom's mobile card game Teppen are a couple original creations of Monster Hunter Explorer. Its flagship, a variation of Zinogre, the starting monster, maybe a couple of others, but I think those are the three. It may not be much, but it certainly ain't nothing. And in even better news, I have heard that there are efforts underway to revive Explore, much the same way that Frontier was resuscitated. And if
now, this video's 2 years old, so I might have to see if that's actually gone somewhere.
that's the case, then I'll be sure to get my hands on it. And overall, it would just be great to see this title preserved. When it comes to being reintroduced to the mainline series, Explore's monsters certainly don't seem to have the pull the Frontier's roster has, but there appears to be a fighting chance for them to return at the very least. Now, let's actually meet the guys we're rooting for, yeah? These are the monsters of Monster Hunter Explorer.
Let's get into it. Okay, well that's Gormagala armor. So I think Gore's in it at least. Ooh. Egyptian feeling.
Great Apipulse.
I like the theme song. It's a exclamation mark, not countable. I really like the theme on this one.
We begin with a good old raptor starter monster, the classic. Although, the Great Apipulse is probably the most ornate-looking raptor boss the franchise has ever seen.
It's like if you mix Great Roggy with, Egyptian motif. I honestly really like that. That's a really nice design.
This golden-scaled, desert-dwelling bird wyvern is modeled after the great Roggy, and has a very similar moveset to Roggy and the rest of the third-generation raptor bird wyverns. As implied by the title of Great, there is indeed a population of...
Ooh. That almost looks like gyros, like in their skin coloring and patterning. Obviously, they're raptors, but like if you cross gyros with Roggy.
lesser Apipulse, who follow the orders of their leader. Great Apipulse is an interesting creature as he sets a few of Explorer's trends in motion, that being an Egyptian mythological theme for some of the monster designs and the introduction of the Earth element. Let's start with Earth first. Earth is a bit of a retroactive element added to Monster Hunter Explorer, meaning it granted an element to some monsters who previously didn't have one, and had at least some close association with earth and rocks and dirt. Monsters...
Okay, I was about to say I figured it would have at least given to Baroth. Yeah, it does kind of look like the Indoraptor. I wouldn't see it. Durantharos getting Earth elements? That's a... Yeah, I was wondering if it was going to be retroactively given to at least some of them. I mean, these three it makes sense on, but Diablos and... I don't know, I'll have to see what Earth actually does.
like Baroth, Diablos, Sandbarioth, Duramboros, and Nibblesnarf were turned into Earth element monsters. It's kinda like when Pokemon went back and added the fairy typing to a number of Pokemon who were just kinda stuck being normal types, but felt like they could have a little bit more to them. The Earth element...
Yeah, funnily enough, that reference barely means anything to me because I'm one of those weirdos who've never really touched Pokemon. I mean, I watched a little bit of the anime a long time ago and read one or two crossover fics, but that's about it.
Did not come with its own blight, even though elemental blights did exist in Explore. And as for the Egyptian mythology connection, Great Apipulse...
Did it say it doesn't have an Earth blight?
More to him. The Earth element did not come with its own blight, even though elemental blights did exist in Explore. And as for the Egyptian mythology connection, Great Apipulse has a color scheme...
So it doesn't have a... So it doesn't do anything? It's just an extra damage type? That's a little disappointing.
And design that is evocative of a pharaoh and a jackal. Glittering gold, gleaming blue, and jet black make up the bulk of his admittedly impressive color palette. He has the telltale jackal ears of Anubis and the long false beard of a pharaoh. We will see these design traits reappear with Explorer's flagship, whom the Apipulse may...
Was not expecting Explorer to be Egyptian themed, but I'm kind of down for it. Let's see where it goes.
Share an intriguing connection with. In terms of combat, the Great Apipulse is predominantly a reskinned Great Roggy, with a projectile attack that inflicts the muddied status instead of poison. However, there is a special form of the Great Apipulse that can be fought in a 16-man siege event. It is known as the Alpha Leader Great Apipulse. This is a far larger Great Apipulse fought out in the battle quarters. He spawns with a huge crowd of the Lesser Apipulse who fight alongside him to distract the oncoming hunters. Not only is this version of the Great Apipulse more powerful, but he also borrows some tricks from the Great...
I mean, all the Egyptian... Admittedly, this is the main one that I've seen that's Egyptian themed, aside from, Adel-Ka, but Adel-Ka is probably the craziest Neuropteran of them all, and is one that I have very much always wanted to hunt. I mean, imagine what a modern gen Adel-Ka would do. Be a crazy hunt.
Jaggy. He has a call that can summon more Apipulse into battle, and a second roar that whips up the pack into an enraged frenzy, with increased speed and attack power. This special quest alone is awesome, as it's an absolutely massive pack of raptors battling a 16-hunter force. It's the closest thing I
was about to question the 1600 thing, but it's an online spinoff. The rule of 4 is whatever.
I think I've ever seen Monster Hunter get to having two armies clashing against one another. The gameplay I've seen of the quest doesn't look super challenging, but I think the uniqueness of this encounter makes this monster stand out more than I was expecting it to. And
I mean, you're not exactly going after the raptors for a challenge. They're there to first teach you how to play the game, and then for quirky fun hunts.
I actually really like how Great Jackie's pack tactics works, so I don't mind seeing similar abilities being placed onto another monster.
Yeah, Great Jaggy is my favorite first large monster for that reason. His pack tactics.
There's one more interesting fact about the Great Appipulse. The aforementioned mud-spit projectile he has possesses an odd blue glow to it. It was discovered that small pieces of what are called induction
Also found out about sex.
crystals are found in the throat sacs of Appipulse.
All right, I'll see ya. But thank you a lot, actually. All right, have a good night, man. Hope to see you again
One
next
of the
time.
many properties of these bizarre crystals is that the intensity of the light they give off seems to correlate with the strength and vitality of a nearby creature. This
That's
is what explains
interesting.
the glowing blue in the throat and ears and projectiles of the Great Appipulse, and why the lesser members of the species lack this glow. Now,
So it reacts to the bioenergy of a monster.
here's the cool part. Induction crystals seem to be created by the elder dragon Nefgarmat, Explorer's flagship, and it is believed that this dragon can induce desertification with these crystals.
That is very interesting. And also means that I already forgot the name, but that means that that elder dragon is a colossal threat, and the guild needs to get on hunting them immediately, because if it causes desertification, that is ecological collapse.
One theory suggests that the Appipulse are a species evolved from Jaggy that adapted to the harsh desert environment created by Nefgarmat. And
Nefgarmat, okay. I mean, that makes sense. Either Jaggy or Roggy, but that's, similar enough anyway. But Nefgarmat causing desertification is huge.
in turn, the Appipulse have gained some power from the induction crystals that litter their desert home, which is a pretty sick relationship between these two wildly different animals. The only issue I take with this is if these are offshoots of Jaggy, why did the developers go with the Roggy
Yeah, I was questioning that myself.
body frame? Maybe because they didn't want 3 raptors that look like Jaggy and then 1 straggler for Roggy, keep the numbers even. But if these are supposed to be Jaggy, what would cause all these other bodily shifts? The flattened out tail, the loss of claws, the different head shape and all that. It's a bit too much of a leap in logic for me. I think that
Easy fix there. Just say that it's not coming from Great Jaggy, but Great Woggy. So they do probably share a common
too drastic of a
ancestor.
change and probably what's too short of a period of time. Now, this could all just be a mistranslation, and they're supposed to be evolved Roggy and not Jaggy. That would make a lot more sense. It would also communicate how powerful and scary Nefgarmat is, that he can turn a humid rainforest region into a barren, sandy wasteland. That could be kind of cool. That aside, I do like this proposed connection between the two species quite a bit on an idea level. I think it just needs a little bit of ironing out.
Yeah, like I said, just make it Rocky. But the fact that Nefgarmat causes desertification, I'm still getting over that because that is huge.
Was more or less ready to just kind of write off the Great Appipulse when I started this video. Oh yeah, another Jaggy clone, but Egyptian and with mud. That's kind of neat for. But there's a bit of substance here. I do really like the colors and the design overall, though I do think the Pharaoh false beard is a bit too on the nose from a design inspiration perspective. The special siege battle with a massive horde of raptors is an incredibly fun looking event quest, which is unique to anything else I've seen in these games. If Appipulse were ever to come back, I think you kind of have to recreate this quest in some way, shape, or form. And the symbiosis it theoretically has with Nefgarmat makes for a
That's not symbiosis with Nefgarmat. At least from what was just described, that's adapting to survive after an elder dragon destroyed an entire ecosystem. Which I know elder dragons can do, but normally when an elder dragon messes up an entire ecosystem, it's like Lunastra burning down a swath of forest or something. Not causing full-on desertification. That, even if Nefgarmat itself isn't that powerful in a direct fight, that puts it in the same kind of ecological devastation tier as something like Gore and Shagaru Magala with their frenzy virus, also devastating an entire ecosystem. I really don't think Volcanic is, getting across how devastating this actually is, and genuinely horrifying to some extent. And yeah, sure, they may have benefited slightly by getting the induction crystal as a evolutionary power buff or something, but it's still monsters struggling to adapt to survive to that massive of a change. That is crazy.
Super unique dynamic between a starting monster and a flagship that I also have never really seen before. Spoiler alert, Nefgarmot is getting a decent score in this video, and I think he'd be elevated if these ornate raptors tagged along with him. I'm not...
Well, yeah, if you're gonna have these, you have to pause at an opportune time. Hello, Moth Soup. But yeah, if you're gonna have these guys, you gotta have Nefgarmoth. I could see you having Nefgarmoth without these guys, but you gotta have the dragon if you want to have these.
Entirely sure how the narrative of Explore unfolds within its own game, but I just think it's a genius idea to utilize the abilities and ecology of a starting monster to start to hype up the powers of a flagship or endgame Elder Dragon. And hey, Great Apiposs returning could maybe signal the Earth element being legitimized in a proper main series title. And
well, for that, it would need an actual, like, Earth Blight. And really, like, I don't know what Earth does in Explore, because at the moment, it just seems like it's an extra damage type with no extra sauce. It's just different elemental energy, when you could very easily just give Earth Blight the Mudman status effect.
Of course, a new incarnation of him would allow for a collection of new attacks that would further differentiate himself from Roggy on a combat level. I'm genuinely surprised. I knew I liked the design, and the Muddy ailment is underutilized, so he had a couple of points going for him going into this, but there's some neat looking lore and a couple of cool mechanics that I was not expecting to find here. I'll give Great Apiposs a 7 for wanting.
Honestly? From just the design, okay, if we kept the ecology and lore out of it, I'd have given him probably a 7 too. But with the lore and connection to Nefgarmoth, and the fact that it causes desertification, and that these evolved to adapt to what was left behind, I'm honestly going to give Apothis an 8, or I think it was Apothis, an 8 out of 10. We're off to a real strong start.
Him in main series Monster Hunter. Keep his cool event fight, spruce up the moves, clean up the lore, and have him stick around Nefgarmot, and you got yourself a winner.
Oh yeah. Like I said, off to a very strong. Also, really like the music they did for him. The music is very much giving me Grey Jaggy's Usurper of the Deserted Island, but Egyptianified. Which is good, because it's one of my favorite Tri themes.
Nefgarmot.
Demonstrate. Okay.
Formerly known as Nefu-Garumudo, before his name was romanized in the game Teppen. The flagship of Monster Hunter Explore is styled after Anubis, and elevates the Egyptian judge of the dead into a true god of death. This jackal-headed elder dragon is an imperialistic geomancer, capable of reducing lush ecosystems to sand-blanketed voids stricken of life. Though Nefgarmat has only been seen in the archipelago where Explorer takes place, one glance at his territory would have you believe that you are instead in the midst of an endless desert. In fact, his map is just the Great Desert from the Genmaran Fight and Try, complete with the sand ship, but that's not important. Ignoring asset flipping for a moment, this is a truly impressive creature. Nefgarmat is a dragon powerful enough to shape the terrain around him, dredging up countless tons of sand and dirt and rock from beneath the earth so that it may eradicate foliage and expand his desert kingdom. Walking Natural Disaster is a moniker commonly attributed to elder dragons, but there are few that are so specifically built to eradicate and reconstruct entire ecosystems.
Yeah. I mean, it looks fantastic, but it causing desertification is... Wow, that is crazy. Also, Kamon can create an induction crystal with its tail by draining energy from the vicinity. That's what Safajiva does. That's what Safajiva does. So Nefgarmoth, basically... So... Yeah, that... Huh. Nefgarmoth is essentially doing what Safajiva does, but it actually got to go through the full process. It sucked all the bioenergy and life out of an environment, turning into a desert. That, well, firstly, that makes me a lot more relieved that we managed to take out Safajiva when we did in World, even if I technically haven't myself because online play. But I mean, that is just crazy. I mean, we're gonna get more into Nefgarmoth's deal, but I'm already teetering at giving him a 10 just from destroys entire ecosystem and turns it into a desert, because that is insane. But we'll finish hearing him, of course.
Bring about this demonic desertification, Nefgarmat is able to drain the ground beneath him of certain energies and crystallize them into what is called an induction crystal. We'll talk about this useful little tool a bit later.
It crystallized the bioinduction crystal. Those same crystals might very well be the same kind of crystal in the Elder's Recess then.
But long story short, an induction crystal is able to drastically amplify the powers of already mighty creatures, transforming Nefgarmat into a far more terrifying force than he already was. Whether Nefgarmat causes desertification by creating new induction crystals, or he uses the crystals to grant him the power to cause desertification, I'm not sure. I couldn't find specifics about the order of operations here. I suppose it's likely a bit of column A and a bit of column B, the two processes feeding into one another. Either way, a Nefgarmat is almost always going to be a priority target for the Hunters Guild, as the presence of this elder dragon could mean the death and displacement of thousands of living things. Now
it's a threat on par with, if not even higher than, Shagaru Magala. That cannot be understated. Even if the individual fight, like, I don't know how tough it is in a, like, hunter versus monster sense, but again, that is a Shagaru Magala level ecological threat, if not more. That is insane.
What this guy can do in combat. Though he has a few physical attacks one would expect to see from an Elder Dragon using Kushala Daora's frame, he has a healthy collection of moves that are entirely his own. He has a body slam where he launches himself up and comes crashing back down. He can slam his massive tail down hard, which you can see coming due to a tail flourish he does before the move. He has a wing slam attack that hits around his sides and closer to the front of his body. He has a spinning attack, which weaponizes his huge wings and tail. He has a unique charging attack, where he'll clear some distance away before turning and rapidly bounding back towards you. And on the elemental side of things, he has a breath attack that creates a swirling vortex of quicksand. This will attempt to pull nearby hunters in before exploding after 5 seconds. Nef will usually attack hunters who are trapped in the quicksand. He can fire this projectile from a static standing position, or he can leap backwards and up into the air while firing off the sand attack.
Alright. So far, probably around World Lunastra in terms of actual hunting threat, but
kind of like Rathalos does with his fireballs. Additionally, He can stuff his tail into the ground, creating several swirling vortexes of quicksand around him that all explode after a few seconds. He has both a close and medium range variation of this attack, which can be identified by the starting up sand vortexes that appear on the ground before they properly start to suck you in. It functions very similarly to how classic Teoster's explosive dust had different colors to indicate the range at which the explosions would detonate.
It did? I double-clicked out of that on accident, my mistake. What do you mean classic Teoster's dust indicated how big the explosion is? I don't think I ever realized that. Okay.
Now here is where the fun begins. When
you're saying that wasn't where the fun was already.
Nefgarmot starts fighting seriously. He plunges his tail far deeper beneath the earth, creating a massive radius of quicksand around him. Bursts of energy begin to fire off, and Nefgarmot drags up a freshly made induction crystal, grasped tightly by his tail. The entirety of his body flares up with brilliant blue energy. He lets out a deafening roar, and with a huge close-range burst of power, he takes on his true form. In this state, he maintains almost the exact same moveset, but every single attack is magnified. Not only do they hit much harder, but now each move is backed with a flaring burst of blue energy that results in a larger hitbox. Some attacks also gain extra properties. The spin gets a delayed energy burst at the end of the move, Nef can double up on his charge attack, and all quicksand attacks have a much stronger suction to them. And most impressively, if Nefgarmot is able to hold on to his induction crystal for 2 to 3 minutes, he is able to tap into the maximum potential of his geomancy. Pushing and pulling the sand beneath the earth, he is able to drag these colossal pillars of a long since buried ruin up from beneath the ground.
Imagine how hard that would go in the Windward Plains.
So much power into the
Imagine pulling out like ancient Wavarian tech out of the Windward Plains ground. Oh, I think I really want Nefgarmoth, actually.
That they too glow blue from the induction crystal, and he flings this gargantuan stone barrage in an attack that hits almost the entire battle zone in front of him. This attack can only be evaded with precise iframes or by running behind the pillars as they are being dragged up. Now, Connor, you may say, this sounds like a lot. Bigger hit zones, altered movesets, a very difficult to avoid super attack. How are you supposed to deal with that? This is where things get even cooler. By dealing enough damage to the tail, you can knock the induction crystal out of Nefgarmot's grasp and depower him.
Makes
then
sense.
It's a mad dash between you and Nef to pick up the crystal before it disappears in a few seconds. If he snags it, he regains his full power. If you grab it, you pick up the crystal and gain an aura buff that multiplies the damage of you and nearby hunters by 3. However,
that is a very interesting mechanic. Yeah, I really want this guy to show up in a mainline, actually. Can you, again, imagine how crazy this would go in Wilds? And you could, the comparisons you could draw between his crystals, the crystals in the Elder's Recess in World, and the Wilk energy source in Wilds. I feel I'd have to actually think about it more to figure out how story interactions they would work, but you could do some really cool stuff with that.
the second you're hit, the crystal is dropped again. You want to hold on to the induction crystal for as long as possible, because once it disappears or its effects wear off on you, Nefgarmot will be soon pulling another one up out of the ground. You can maintain the buff for about 45 seconds before the crystal disappears on its own. This is kinda similar to Frontier's Varusaburos, where you're trying to play keep away with a flaming cactus that grants that monster his powers. But this time, Nefgarmot starts out with the power-up, and the player is able to gain said power-up himself. So in terms of that hot potato pass and play mechanic, this is actually more high octane than Varusaburos's battle. Though this ain't a Frontier fight, so maybe that's for the best. But how cool is that, though?
It is extremely cool. Again, can you imagine all the different things, how this could play out if this was in Wilds? I'm gonna have to very dramatically rework some of the ideas I had for like a Zenith, for either like a Z-Rank extra expansion theory video, or maybe this just a revamp redo of my Elder Tide one, because there is so much here to play with, especially if we were to bring in other spin-off monsters.
Incredibly unique moveset, a gorgeous second form, a countdown clock to an extremely dangerous.
That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of the card art for the two different Chaos Blue Eyes these white dragons from Yu-Gi-Oh. That's what I was thinking of.
Attack and a high-stakes tug-of-war match, all wrapped up in a sand-drenched bow. If there's any complaints here, the blue energy looks a little cartoony in the sand attacks, but
if we had like a 5th gen tone up and it wasn't on a mobile device, I bet it could look a lot better.
That's not anything modern graphics can't fix. I don't think he really needs,
again, Monster Hunter fans sharing the same brain cell,
that many new moves, maybe
no,
a handful
really.
and some better combos so that he can keep up with the other modern Elder Dragons, but I don't
as long as his moves just float into each other, he doesn't even really need new ones, just modern monster responsiveness.
think he really needs that much work. It's just a little bit more of what he's got, and that should be good. And the design is simply incredible. Once again, I think the Pharaoh false beard is a tad on the nose.
No, I thought it was okay on Alpos, but on an Elder Dragon, it fits real well.
Like it is with the Great Apipos. I'm fine with a canine face, since we've already got Elder Dragons with feline facial structures, so that clicks. And the Pharaoh headdress design built into his hood is, I would say, subtle enough that I don't feel like it calls too much attention to itself. I adore both the curved blade shape and the feathered texture of his wings. His big, long, really flat-ended tail looks a little silly to me in his...
No, it makes sense. I thought it looked good in normal form, but when he's got the crystal slotted into it, it looks really cool.
Normal state, but I understand its functions. That's fine. I absolutely love how good he looks, all lit up with blue, but I'm also rather fond of his standard color palette, the dull gold scales and shell contrasted with a nearly black hide. He is a dragon that is equal parts magnificent and terrifying.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna toss this one out there. Wilds is coming up with what looks
time passing
to be dynamic weather and rolling sandstorms. We also might very well be heading back to the New World, as indicated by our scout flight cages and the slingers in the trailer.
It turned out to not be the case, but New World stories were mentioned.
Established that the New World is a hotbed for subterranean bioenergy with a continent-spanning ecosystem built around the stuff.
Which, actually, that brings up something I'm probably going to have to make my own video on, but the worlds, like the ecosystem interactions in World between every aspect, actually kind of mirrors how the Dragon Torch and the Wilk energy flow works in Wilds, but obviously it's more amped up and artificial in Wilds, and it almost makes me wonder if, like, ancient civilizations didn't take some inspiration for the natural structures of it in Wild and adapt it into how the Dragon Torch functions. And I'd have to go back and look at the notes I made at like 3 a.m. on this several months ago, but interesting point of discussion there that I might revisit.
I'm not saying Nefgarmat's gonna be in the game, but
sadly he's not. But could you imagine him showing up in the actual title update? It would, it would fit so well in the Windward Plains. Again, an ecological disaster on the scale of a Shagaru Magala, and considering Gore's in Wilds, we're probably going to get Shagaru regardless. Imagine 2 Shagaru Magala level ecological threats, and all the crazy interactions that this could have with Wilk and the Wyvern Milk energy, and you could call back how his crystals are so similar to the ones in the Elder's Recess. The connections are forming. I need time to, if I'm gonna do a theory spec on this, which I kind of really want to now. There's so much potential here.
It's a damn good fit at the very least.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude, this is a 10 out of 10.
Yes. I'm fully agreeing with this one, actually. The only one I gave 10 last time was Mephistion, because it felt like a Guardian monster. Or Mephistophelan, because seemed like it was a Guardian monster similar to the way Zoshia is an equal dragon weapon attempt. But this isn't just the sheer potential of what this monster could do and be in a modern, maybe not Wilds expansion, maybe future ones, but dear God, there is so much here that could be so awesome.
This guy's already fantastic looking and has a dope fight and is some pretty decent lore already, and he's from a 3rd generation spinoff mobile game. Slap this thing in 6th generation and holy dude, this guy would be insane.
We're 2 monsters in and I've drugged this out to 40 minutes. Are you... Wow. At least I know I'm doing transformative work to some extent. The theme is very 3rd gen monster themed too. Reminds me of the volcano ones. That said, I don't think it's as strong as the first theme we heard. Ooh.
Garudia.
Garudia. That's just old theme opening.
After the world is dried out and warped by Anubis, the skies shall belong to Ra. Garudia is a relative of Nefgarmat, whose life cycle appears to be intertwined with his fellow Elder Dragon. It is stated in ancient texts that Garudia is the heavenly crystal dragon, an opposite of the deathly crystal dragon Nefgarmat. That Ao brings life to the desert wastelands after the destruction brought about by his relative. I unfortunately could not find the specifics of Ao's role in the ecosystem and how exactly he affects the deserts that Nefgarmat creates. All is really just left to legend at the moment.
That's kind of sad. I don't like his design as much as Nefgarmat's. It gives me that Frontier Too Many Spikes vibe, but yeah, no, I don't like the design as much.
Old legends speak of a death and rebirth connection between the two, implying that Garudia is some form of life giver. The two kinda have a Pokemon box art legendary kind of feel to them, while, still maintaining some of Monster Hunter's grounded ecology and consideration for the monster's effects on local environments and wildlife. Though, I do think that they're due to have this lore fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, if there's no explanation why and as to how it brings life back, if they were going to bring him back along with Nefgarmat, that would need to be addressed significantly.
I'd love to know how Garudia comes into play after Nefgarmat's terraforming, and I think you could absolutely present one creature bringing about destruction and the other having a more positive effect in the aftermath in a way that is ecologically sensible. I'm actually very fond of Monster Hunter presenting the abilities of very powerful animals in ways that are very mystical at first glance, but can then later on be explained in a more logical way. It gives the world a feeling of culture and history whilst maintaining realism. However, as I said, currently the bulk of what we know about Garudia is rooted only in old legend. Like his relative, Garudia derives his power from the use of crystals. His crystals seem to be much more built into his body and not something that he creates. You can find them fused to his wings, and he has the ability to regrow them after he launches them. It is from these crystals
I'm surprised at how many spike throwers there are in the spin-off games.
That Garudia displays his command over fire, and I must say, I appreciate what a graceful and almost reserved fire wielder Garudia is. Fire tends to be the elemental category most characterized by cacophony and dominating power, but here, for the most part, save for one move in particular, the flames of Garudia are mostly an accessory to his mastery of the winds. They are not the major player here. Eo Garudia is an incredibly proficient flyer, and the majority of his moveset is based around aerial attacks. Now, this can often be poorly implemented and make for some very frustrating fights, but I think the developers did some good work here. First off, Eo Garudia's default flying elevation is very low to the ground, and his long tail is borderline touching it, so there's ample space to hit him.
Alright, that's good. Because not being able to hit flying monsters is always annoying.
Makes hitting the head still a little bit annoying, but he isn't beyond any weapon's range consistently. Like Nefgarmat, he possesses a lot of familiar Elder Dragon attacks, including mid-air bite attacks and tail sweeps and the like, but it absolutely gets better from there. He has a distance-clearing flying dash that leaves these glittering embers in the sky in the wake of his movements. He can use his attack twice when enraged. He's got an attack that is rather simple in execution, but I think looks gorgeous in motion, where he digs a wing into the ground and flies in a curve around you, showing off his full wingspan. This move triples as an attack, a repositioning tool, and a potential combo starter. It's
I mean, the fight itself looks alright. I just don't like the design nearly as much.
nowhere near the craziest attack of all time. I just think it looks fantastic in motion like this. He has an attack with a highly telegraphed wind-up where he slashes the ground with his wing, which also causes his tail to sweep around. He has the ability to take off into the air after a biting attack. He has a huge 360-degree tail sweep that leaves streaks of fire in his wake, and this is often a follow-up to his body slam attack. Now getting into the upper echelons of Eo Garudia's power, he has multiple ways of creating these powerful wind tunnels that play into the main gimmick of his fight. Much like Kushala Daora, Eo Garudia possesses a breath weapon capable of manipulating wind currents. Instead of tornadoes, he can generate these powerful wind tunnels that can drag a full-grown human around easily. In a display of ingenuity, Eo Garudia will litter these wind tunnels with the crystals on his wings. Hunters will be forced to steer themselves back and forth or be sent careening into the burning crystals, which inflict blast and fire blight. Eo Garudia will shoot out these vortexes in a V formation, and then air dash between the two or use different aerial attacks to catch any hunters who manage to avoid the tunnels themselves.
I mean, that is an interesting fight mechanic. I will give it that. It's just, you know what I think would be better? If instead of having the spikes jutting out forwards on the wings like this, they were layered into the wings on the backside to form a more crystal feather look. Or maybe they were, if the spikes were on the tail and not the wings. Because them being on the wings just throws off the balance of the sickle axe looking wings. I think that's what my main issue with the design is.
He is even able to create a wind tunnel simply by the force of him flying. He shoots forward in a corkscrew whilst dropping crystals in his wake. This particular wind tunnel tries to pull you in towards Eo as the fire crystals burn you. After performing this move, Eo Garudia will stop to gather heat in his wings for a few seconds. As he does this, his body will begin to glow from within. An infernal orange starts to pulse from between the gaps in his shell. The eye-like patterns on his wings begin to glow, and his attacks will start getting stronger. After he has gathered enough heat within himself, he will prepare to unleash his full might. The winds begin to swirl, shifting the sand and turning the ground around him into a vortex of quicksand that drags you in close. The fire ignites between the
okay, he looks better with his spots of glow.
Glowing wings, and he unleashes a swirling, churning ring of fire around him. The force of his hurricane-like wings drag pillars of ancient ruins up from beneath the earth, much like the display Nefgarmat puts on. However, Eo Garudia manhandles these ancient stones with far greater ease. Those trapped in this display of force are decimated by fire and stone. Your only salvation comes in the form of wind tunnels, which are created as a byproduct of the amount of heat and air he is controlling. Hopping into one of these can save you from the attack. So this is a pretty cool ultimate attack, but I do think it needs a little work. I can buy the wind catching the sand and spinning it into a vortex, that's fine. I can buy the big bursts of fire between the wings and circulating around the area, that's all good. I don't think I can buy the massive pillars being uprooted up out of the ground by the power of wind. I imagine they wanted to use this acid again and kind of tie Nefgarmat and Eo Garudia's ultimate attacks together, but I don't.
Yeah, I can see why they make the choice to have the assets again, But it does not fit this one nearly as much as the other.
See how he can pull these up from beneath the earth. If they were lying around the battlefield, I would be more inclined to believe that Aogarudia controls winds so powerful that they can move these pillars. Additionally, the wind tunnels that can save you from this attack just kinda manifest out of nowhere. We are shown earlier on how exactly he creates them, and for this attack, they just kinda appear. I think what you could do is axe the pillars, unless they're on the ground in his battle arena already, intensify the fire tornado, make that the main danger, and instead of having wind tunnels magically appear, you could take a page from White Espinasse, where there are these fast-moving gaps in the tornadoes that he creates that you can slip through before you're incinerated.
That sounds like a pretty good way to do it, honestly. No notes.
It'd be the same ultimate attack for Aogarudia. Functions pretty much the same way, but just cleaning up the logistics a little bit. Great concept, messy execution. And
fully agree, honestly. Yeah. Like I said, if you take the spikes from his wing knuckles, put them either on the skin side of the wings as like a layered feather, or on the end of his tails, I think that would make the design look a lot better. And then the aforementioned change to the ultimate attack.
Honestly, the animation where he spreads his wings.
That is pretty cool, though, and it does give you the Eye of Ra look.
And they light up in flame. That's stellar. I love the homage to artistic depictions of Ra here. It is a very good way to utilize Ao's inspiration. This might be a hot take. I think I like how Aogarudia looks more than Nefgarmat.
No. Okay, here's where we stop sharing the brain cell. Garudi, I do not like them anywhere near as much as Nefgarmat. Like I said, if you took the spikes off of right here and here, put them either on the end of the tail or like layered as feathers on the wings, it'd be a much better design in my opinion. But even then, I think Nefgarmat has a much stronger look than this one.
I really love the red, gold, and white as a color scheme, and they went with such beautifully bright and regal looking shades of all of these colors. The Ra influence really only bleeds into the eyes on the wings, which look magnificent. He shares that unique wing shape with Garmat that I really like. The feathery plumage on his tail and his mane look great. I think they nailed the head shape, especially.
Oh! Like I said, I don't like his design as much, but what if this is some alt? Think about it. What if in ancient past, right, maybe time of Wavaria, maybe even before Wavaria was fully fledged, the place that is now the Windward Plains wasn't the Windward Plains as we know them, the mostly deserty environment, but it was in fact something more like, say, the Great Plains of America, or something more, or like Forest and Hills, or something like that, using Monster Hunter reference, something, a plains biome, not a desert biome. Nefgarmat showed up, wrecked the ecosystem, maybe inspiring Wavaria and their bioenergy artificialness. And then this one showed up, did whatever its nebulous return of life thing is, and its legend was passed down to the people of Kunafa as the guardian bird Samalt. It would even make sense as like riding the winds and all the wind-based allegories of Samalt, because this is a very wind-focused monster. There's a lot of potential there, and that could be very fun potential to explore. I just don't like the design nearly as much as he does.
They kind of mixed draconic elements with avian elements to make a very fierce and intimidating, yet royal and intelligent look for him. Not the first time they've crossed birds with dragons, but I think every time they do it, it comes out excellent. And this is no exception. This might be my favorite, honestly. The horns
honestly, if they just didn't have the crystals here, I'd like the design so much better.
Horns are nice and simple. He looks amazing when he glows red. The crystals aren't too overbearing on his body, and he has this very
I've already explained how I disagree with that a bunch, so.
distinct arrangement of, I guess you could call them spikes spikes coming off of his back that at some angles look kind of like the plumage of a bird, and at others has that pharaoh headpiece look. I kind of like how they position this on him. It's odd, but I think it feeds both into the bird and the Egyptian halves. And when you look at him like straight on, it adds this very kingly regality to his silhouette, as if he is a lord atop a throne. Eogarudia is the...
That is clearly what they were going for. I'm all right with that part of the design. It really is just the spikes on the wing spars that are throwing me, I think.
phenomenal younger brother of Nefgarmat, whom I believe unfortunately gets overshadowed by his relative's flagship status and the presence of this game's third Elder Dragon. His design is immaculate. His command over fire is simultaneously more tame and more beautifully grandiose than a fair bit of other fire monsters. His theme is very powerful and commanding. He has a great looking array of attacks with some combo structures that are on par with 5th generation Elder Dragon design, and he may very well even be stronger than Nefgarmat. I think his lore definitely needs some fleshing out. His ultimate attack needs a little bit more work to really make sense. I think he would stand to benefit from a few more grounded attacks, even though his aerial combat looks pretty well crafted. And I think some modern flame particle and effect work would help the moveset really pop. Especially like all of his moves where little flecks of fire trail behind him in his wake. You put that in something a little bit more modern, that would look absolutely fantastic.
A modern graphic update would probably help a lot. Heck, they could probably make the wing spikes look even better.
If Explorer monsters do come back, I really hope Eogarudia isn't left behind and forgotten. He is absolutely the middle child of the three, and although I do think he needs the most upgrades of the 3 Elder Dragons in this game, I think he's still stellar.
In contrast to his 9 out of 10, I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10. Solely because I don't like his looks as much, but it is still a very solid monster design.
And has the potential to be amongst the most beautiful fights the series has ever seen.
It is a good theme. My favorite I've heard from this one so far, though. Oh, this guy! I've been waiting to figure out where he came from because so a long time ago, way before I even started doing YouTube, I would just play around with photoshopping Monster Hunter models. Or not models, but, you know, renders. And I did some funny things with it, with this one. I made him like a biped forest cryptid once. I kept waiting to find him and a couple others, so he's an Explorer monster. All right. I knew we'd missed. It didn't even click that we'd missed him in the frontier or online explorations. But I'd been wondering when he was going to show up.
Oh.
Ooh, that is a good theme. That's a properly eerie theme. And the drums? Oh yeah. And we got choir elements? Okay, that tells me that this is a very, very powerful Elder Dragon. That is a very strong theme. I like that a lot.
Our final original Explorer monster is an anomaly.
Hey, that was it? Okay.
And an aberration. It does not dwell in the desert. It has no Egyptian theming. It is found in no myth or legend. It is a vile, aggressive, merciless monstrosity that stalks frigid regions, devouring anything and everything it sees. The Black Crown Dragon is a force to be reckoned with. He boasts impressive speed, strength, ferocity, and an arsenal of hidden weapons that he will gradually unveil as the fight progresses, each more terrifying than the last. Ecology-wise, we know precious little about him, which makes his bizarre powers all the more
He's very
fascinating.
stretchy.
Let's start with the most trivial of his abilities, shall we? The crown of horns atop Morudomunto's head, which give him his title, are incredibly dense, offer him effective protection, and can skewer a man with a single sweep. These horns are tough to break, and grant Morudomunto high resistance to impact damage and stun buildup. His attacks with them are unblockable and are guaranteed to stun. Next up are the wings.
Right.
Well, one part of his wings. We'll get to the other thing in a second. Morudomunto possesses the same body shape as Gore Magala, all the way down to the opposable digits Gore has on his wings. Morudomunto's wings have an elasticity to them, allowing them to extend their reach beyond what one would believe him capable of at first glance.
That is very unsettling.
He will send his wings shooting out ahead of him, or to the sides of him. He will anchor himself down with the wing talons, and then contract his muscles to pull his body in the direction of his wings.
And that is a very cool move, too.
He uses this to reposition himself, as well as slam into hunters that are in his way. Now that by itself, it's pretty cool. We don't really have many monsters with that kind of elastic quality to their limbs, and it's...
I mean, there's KHEZU and Giganox. There's also Gypsyros with its tail. Is there anyone else who's stretchy? KHEZU, Giganox, their subspecies, Gypsyros. I don't think there's any other monster that does stretchy shenanigans.
an interesting way to repurpose Gore Magala's wing talons. But let me tell you, that is, by a mile, the most tame aspect about Morudomunto's wings.
They have mouths.
Very closely at the wing arm of this dragon, and you may see a thin little red line with white specks. Kind of looks like a seam. When this dragon catches you unaware and wishes to end a fight in the blink of an eye, the seam breaks. The wing splits near in half, and with a blindingly fast swipe, he attempts to bite you in half with his hidden pair of mouths built into his wings. Now,
I'll admit, I've seen that before because I've seen this monster before. But that is so cool and so freaky. Like, this really, like, thinking about it now, it does go into body horror territories, but I love that. Ah, this is in the best way. I like this.
let me make sure you heard me correctly. I did not
Mouths
say
on
that
his
he attacks
arms.
you with a row of teeth-like spikes on his wings. I did not say that he tries to split you in half with a motion similar to a bite. These are mouths. Those are teeth. They are connected to his digestive system.
And
He
that is so
trying to
freaky.
eat you alive. And that is crazy.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. There is very little precedent for a creature like this having multiple mouths in real life. Josh over at Rage Gaming Videos pointed out that the closest thing we really have are sponges with multiple orifices, which they can feed with. This is a big leap up. Elder dragons are known for physical feats and biological developments far crazier than this, so it doesn't particularly crack my suspension of disbelief with Monster Hunter. On a biological level, I think an extra...
And, you know, the thing that also helps me suspend my disbelief with this is Valstrax. Because Valstrax's wings connect to his lungs. There is essentially an esophagus that goes through Valstrax's arm, not arms, but, you know, arm-like limb structure up into its wings and essentially out its fingertips into its biological rocket jets. So if one dragon can essentially have one aspect of a throat that goes through its arm, another dragon essentially having the same thing but for digestive purposes, I can buy it.
Set of mouths is more or less something that is wholly unnecessary for animals to have, rather than something that is scientifically inconceivable, and much less than turning lightning bolts into checker patterns. I would be curious to find out exactly how the digestive organs are organized. I'd assume they'd have to be close to the bones and the muscles of the wing arms, perhaps more located towards the interior of the wing, but still in that bulkier arm bone section. If you were to redesign this monster, you could perhaps bulk up the main arm parts of the wing.
Well, no, you don't need the digestive tract to be anywhere like attached to the wing arm. You just have essentially a throat that runs through the shoulders into wherever its stomach would be, or stomach chambers if it has multiple.
Arms just a little bit, showing that the bone and the muscle are incredibly tough and dense and large, and they serve to protect the delicate organs found in the wings. What I really love here is the implementation of the wing mouths in a combative sense. He doesn't keep them out in the open all that much, even in like rage mode or anything. He mostly keeps them holstered when they aren't being utilized, and he has a variety of attacks and maneuvers out of which he can combo into this devouring wing attack. They're ambush weapons, hidden instruments designed to go for a definite kill shot or to rip a chunk off of an enemy before they have any idea what's hit them. Granted,
and that's also, I think, what helps sell it to me, that they're not like open gnashing all the time. It is a surprise technique.
in the actual game, there's a fair bit of wind-up to these attacks as a bit of a counterbalance, since they are absolutely massive hitboxes, they're unguardable, and they inflict bleed, and they hit extremely hard. But I adore the concept here that these unexpected, out-of-left-field, enormously lethal weapons that could end a fight quickly are hidden trump cards that Moro Domunto can utilize once he's confident that he can land that particular death blow. Okay, so now, why
That is really cool.
does Moro Domunto need the ability to devour so much food so efficiently that he has additional mouths?
Well, I'm guessing it's a Devil Joe type situation where it just has an absolutely insane metabolism. Maybe to fuel dragon energy production.
That would be because his last weapon consumes a ton of his energy. Moro Domunto possesses the ability to spit and secrete a black liquid from himself, and this liquid mixes with his own blood. When exposed to air, pools of this black blood are capable of slowing the movements of hunters as they rapidly solidify into
black blood? Black blood. You know what that makes me think of? I don't have the thing queued up for it. I wish I could just project images onto my screen with my brain, but I can't. Soul Eater. Kronika, or Krona from Soul Eater and Ragnarok. Krona and Ragnarok from Soul Eater, and the black blood for the head of the demon sword. That's what that's making me thinking of.
piercing spear formations that can inflict bleed.
Again, someone designing this monster must have been watching or reading Soul Eater.
These black pools can secrete from his tail and underbelly, or he can fire them from his mouth. Additionally, he is capable of shooting an already hardened black spear from his mouth, which will break upon impact. Now, that amount of blood loss must be taxing for Moro Domunto, but he has one last desperate gambit where he consumes a ton of this power. When push comes to shove, and Moro Domunto is at the height of his rage, he will stand up on his hind legs. His wing mouths will open wide, and he will rake his massive claws repeatedly over his chest, maiming his own body and ripping open his own torso with deep lacerations as he pumps as much of this black blood as he can into his chest.
That is edgy and metal as oh. That is some Dead Man Wonderland stuff. Oh my goodness. Oh. I feel like I shouldn't like this monster as much as I do, actually, but I really like this one.
A second passes, followed by
So
a
edgy,
torrential
so
downpour of black blood upon the battlefield, creating a lake of gore around the madness-stricken Lich Dragon. And in the blink of an eye, the lake transforms into a dark phalanx of spears, surrounding Morodomunto and impaling all who could not escape.
That is so good. I mean, it bad, but you know what I mean is, ooh. Oh, I want to hunt you now.
This is the single most heavy metal attack in all of Monster Hunter. This is the coolest in the world. This is why Morodomunto requires the ability to take in food as quickly and violently and effectively as possible. This lunatic is locked in a masochistic cycle of ripping his own body asunder and then reacquiring that energy as fast as possible.
Is so I mean, he's gonna do this so metal. Oh, this is, I don't even have words. This is just awesome. Like, I feel like I need some Judas Priest playing or something, because that is, ooh.
The ways his abilities tie into one another is
you know what? Or maybe some Powerwolf, all you can bleed.
Amazing. The raw, unflinching carnage that this Mad King is willing to inflict on anything and everything, including himself, is some of the most violent combat tactics I have seen in these games. A modern rendition of this fight would be insanity.
Can you even imagine how hard a modern gen version of this hunt would go? It would, insane is an understatement. Oh, that is real. Like, can you not see how crazy that would go?
Not too shabby either. I can't help but think Lich King Dragon when I see this guy. I mean, just look at this armor, dude. The big white cloak of a cape with that tuft of fur up by the shoulders looks great. He's got those gleaming white scales contrasted with the pitch black spikes and horns.
Ooh. Imagine a guardian Monomedrone that's not just his own blood, but his blood is mixed with Wilk, and it's like a mistake with another one of various mistakes, and it's even more insane because it's not just his black blood spikes, but it's also Wilk energy. That could go really hard.
Like the patches of missing scales that reveal the lighter blue skin he has underneath. It also shows just how much damage he's taken over the course of his life. I can maybe kind of take or leave the gnarly hand-looking tail claws. That's a little odd, but whatever.
I mean, like, Monodron has something like that, and a Jerrican has something like, not a Jerrican. Well, a Jerrican kind of does a little bit, but Bish Hatton is the one I was thinking of that kind of has that too.
The horns kind of feel like they should feel disproportionate, but I get like that's kind of the idea, so I think in practice they actually don't look that bad. And
I mean, they kind of almost remind me of the moose's antlers.
Boxier jaw structure kind of sells the more brute nature that he has. Honestly, there's something about the render that makes him look way more kind of doofy and dorky than he acts.
A little bit. But having seen him in motion, the dead eyes are just staring into you.
actually does in motion or in concept art. I think the design, it looks way, way, way better in motion. And I love those wide, pupilless, golden glowing eyes. It really sells the role as this kind of soulless, wild madman. Remember back in the Frontier G video in the Guanzulumu section when I gave him a 12 out of 10 for wanting him in mainline Monster Hunter, and I said there was eventually going to be an 11 out of 10? Yeah, it's this dude. Holy...
I don't know if I can give him that because I've been trying to keep 10 as my absolute out of 10. I really want to give him a full 10, but there's just... yeah, I'm going to give him a full 10 out of 10. I can't give him the 11 because I don't want to break the go 2 million% or whatever, but... yeah, 10 out of 10 monster. So far, Explorer has been hit after hit, but this... I'd almost want to give it the 11 out of 10, but if it just had a smidgen of like extra lore around it beyond like its own, no, it is so good. I can't give it more than 10 out of 10 though, mostly because that's how fractions work. Unless I wanted to give into whole number, whatever. Getting into the weeds.
His concept
really good,
are pretty wild, but not as unfathomable as some other stuff in the games.
I mean, again, if you think about Valstrax, maybe it has a common-ish ancestor with Valstrax of the esophagus. I mean, with Valstrax, it's... I probably need to look at biology books again, because is it the esophagus that connects to the stomach and the airway? Air tube, whatever. But Valstrax has the air tube going into his wings from the lungs. This one has the food tube going into the stomach. I'm a family with medical people. Why do I not know the names of these things? Whatever. You know what I mean.
Personality trumps just about every other wildly violent monster in the series. His theme is haunting. His design is...
oh yeah, again, the theme is fantastic. Is that is that art of Nergigante? Oh wow, that is some sick art. Who? You can see down in the corner to the side who this artist should be. I think. I mean, make sure it's on the stream. You can see that artist. I wanted to make sure you could. That is sick artwork.
Striking and perfectly captures his proclivity towards relentless, cold, and unfeeling violence. What a monster.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is it for brand new, wholly original Explorer monsters. Don't worry, we still have a lot of variations to cover, but this is where the brand new stuff unfortunately ends. Shorter than any of us wanted, but unfortunately, Explorer was a little bit short-lived, and it didn't even start introducing new monsters until it was a couple of updates in. I
mean, the 3 new ones it did introduce are fantastic. That is an absolutely insane monster design. But yeah, so far all the 3 Explorer originals have been hit after hit, each one better with it. But I almost want to stop here because here's a natural break before we go to this, side monsters and stuff. But we're not really halfway through, so. What do you guys think? Do you want to put the break here at the end of the last little bit of Mulcadron? Or do we want to do the subspecies as next stream? Or go a little bit into the subspecies stuff? You don't want to chime in? No? Alright. We'll see. Let's finish.
Circumstances, we would likely have even more incredible creatures to discuss because this development team was on fire, man.
Yeah, they were. I mean, these have been fantastic.
Though a little light in the ecological department, I can see all 4 of these.
This one's a little light in the ecological, but the first 2, the Woggy evolved from, it said Jaggy, and the name's already slipped my head, but the first of the 2 Egyptian elder dragons that does the desertification, that is there is so much there, and it is so good.
Animals having the potential to be fleshed out and built upon in a way that properly explains their abilities. There already is some groundwork with all 4 of them. It just needs some more elaboration. With just 4 monsters, we got an intriguing symbiotic raptor species, a stoic terraforming desert dragon king, a majestic avian dragon who harnesses burning winds with unmatched grace, and an arctic horror locked in an unending cycle of violence. So much done with so little. And they're all excellent, packed with well-crafted mechanics and ideas. All of them, I think, deserve to return. The biggest tragedy is that the Explorer team were unable to create more monsters of this excellent caliber. All right, folks, next up, we're going to cover the serious monster variations before we get into the silly and even a couple of crossover ones. And buckle up.
That's going to be fun.
Because the quality doesn't really stop here.
Really?
Much at all.
Okay.
This game.
Okay, we might go at least a few into the subspecies because I don't want to stop here. These have been great. Let's keep going. Again, that theme is just so good. There's such a good theme. Like, genuine, I'm gonna have to see if I can get the Explorer music, because I might just have to add this guy's theme to my Monster Hunter playlist. That is music playlist. That is so good. Powerful and menacing. It's got the gravitas of the Black Dragon themes, but
so Explorer had a lump sum name for all the monster variations it had, that being special species. This moniker encapsulates monsters that are more or less just regular monster variants that would be feasible creations in a traditional Monster Hunter game. They have special seasonal event monsters and monsters that are tied in with special collaborations with other games and companies. Let's get things started with the more plausible monster variants of Explorer and work our way into the sillier stuff. And what better way to start things off than with the king and queen of Monster Hunter themselves,
the Wrath.
Scorching Heat Rathian. Hey, so
okay.
Right off the bat, this is the best the queen has ever looked. The darkened shell, the crown of hellfire, the ever-present aura of blood.
This is a little insane.
Black flames just pouring off of her. Something about edgy Rathians, man. It just works really fucking well. Scorching Heat Rathian is also known by the name Queen of Poisonous Flames. And that sells the gimmick pretty well. Her fireballs inflict both fire blight and noxious poison damage, meaning this dragon is the reigning champion of damage over time if you come to this battle ill-prepared.
That sounds like if you get caught in that, your health just instantly evaporates. The design is sick as hell, but I do question it. Don't get me wrong, this design for Rathian is so good, but how? Like, if the flame is constant, I don't know if the flame is like this is just when it's enraged and it's made note that it has like fire vents along its neck and stuff, okay, but Rathians and Rathos are one of the ones we know the most about. Like, how does this feasibly work? Such a good design, though. It's just, how did it work?
The main gimmick here is that if a body part of hers is ignited with more intense flames, certain attacks will gain noxious poison and fire damage. If her head is all lit up, the flames she breathes swirl with a haunting black hue that indicates their venomous duality. If her chest is ignited, then she leaves pools of poison fire.
Okay, so the fire comes in off and on. I can totally see this being like a monstrous nightmare flammable skin oil thing then. Okay. We're good.
Her wake during her charge attacks. And if her tail is ignited, then her backflip will leave a streak of poisonous fire in its wake. These flames will leap from body part to body part, igniting different chunks of her at different times. And when she enrages, her entire body ignites. And to add a little flavor of risk reward, the areas that are ignited have softened hit zones. Pretty solid gimmick. Pay attention to her body parts during the course of the battle. Dread the misery of facing her when she's fully enraged if you forgot to equip Poison Negate. She also has the moveset of 3rd generation's Gold Rathian. So she has a few more combos, larger fireballs, and the diagonal backflip attack. You slap this on something close to a modern Gold Rathian's moveset and this.
Oh, can you imagine how painful but also awesome that fight would be?
Chick would be a demon. This is a pretty damn good idea for a Rathian variant. We have a very powerful flame-oriented Rathian with the gold. We have a very powerful poison-oriented Rathian with Dread Queen, and then you have Scorching Heat, who is the best of both worlds, plus a little bit more. And you pair all that up with a sick looking Ghost Rider flame skull looking design. Yeah, dude, I dig it. It's not the most inventive monster variation. She very much is like max potential Rathian, which is still very cool. And the body part gimmick adds just this little extra flair to the fight. Might need a handful of her own attacks to really help her stick out, but this is another dope Rathian. I think good strong 7 for one.
Yeah, 7's fair. It is really cool, but ultimately it is just turbocharged Rathian, so yeah, 7.
Nerd mainline monster hunter. Flame Rathalos.
I'm assuming this is the same thing, but Rathalos?
So, similar concept here, lamentably worse execution. Flame Rathalos was, at one point, Monster Hunter Explorer's flagship, and was the culprit behind a series of wildfires that were being investigated in the opening levels of the story. This empowered Rathalos rocks a more pink coloration in his scales, and a bit of an...
Why is this face funny? What? I don't know what it is. This angle, this shot of this flame Ratha, it's like a dog that's been caught. Like this is a dog trying to give it its food without wanting to seem like that's what it's doing or something. I don't know what it is, but this face is getting me.
Orange gold tinge, where his shell is usually black. However, you're not going to see these colors all that much because Flame Rathalos will spend the entirety of the battle wholly cloaked in flames. Everything, from his head to his wings to his tail, are completely and utterly engulfed. The main changes here is that pretty much every attack of his, including the physical attacks, can now inflict Fire Blight. He loses his poison in his tail attacks, and his fireballs are larger, unblockable, and leave a lingering flame in their wake. Now,
if his flame would occasionally go out across body parts like the Rathian version did, it would be so much better.
I can be a bit forgiving due to the fact that Flame Rathalos was among the first monsters developed for this mobile game spinoff. Doesn't mean I find him particularly interesting. Now, I would find him more interesting, but Rathalos has had a really static roster of variations over the years. Silver Rathalos also improves Rathalos' firepower and adds different hit zones and a Hellfire mechanic. Dread King Rathalos also improves Rathalos' firepower, brings explosive meteors and retains the poison, bumps that up to Noxious Poison. Zenith Rathalos also improves Rathalos' firepower and adds a whole list of Zenith mechanics and fire tornadoes and big nova explosions. And
you know what would be an interesting Rathalos subspecies? Instead of focusing on his fire like all of the other ones do, or subspecies variant, whatever, a true King of the Skies Rathalos that focuses on his flying and his aerial speed and maneuverability. I mean, technically that's what Azure Rathalos is, but push that from it's Rathalos but it flies more to a true aerial combatant. Almost like Staregios mixed with Astalos, but Rathalos, if you get it, my vibe.
Cluster bomb fireballs. A lot of Rathalos variations go for fire augmentation, and every other one that does this brings something a little bit more interesting to the table than Flame Rathalos does.
Because yeah, this is just Rathalos meets Monstrous Nightmare. It's just
So I don't see
The
why
Rathian was
you
so
would
much better.
pick Flame Rathalos over some of these other variations of him that go for a very similar power-up. It's not even that Flame Rathalos has unfulfilled potential. Other versions of Rathalos have fulfilled that potential. In fact, this guy is almost a little bit reductive for Rathalos as he takes the poison away from the talons. None of the other ones do that. Scorching
Or a poisonous-legged, more ground-based Rathalos variant. That could be interesting.
Heat Rathian was able to take a lot of Rathian's qualities,
Give him more like Hypnocatrice kicking attacks, maybe, I don't know.
mash them together, and amplify them. Flame Rathalos just singles out one particular facet of Rathalos, and not in a way that is as interesting as other versions of Rathalos have done in the past.
Yeah.
They gotta try and find a way to spruce up Rathalos variations, man. They just keep kind of doing the same thing. There's gotta be some ideas for the guy. Sorry, bud, I love you, but this version of you is only getting a 3 for wanting.
I mean, I'm not going to give it a 3 because I'm having 5 be my meh and anything below 5 be negative, but 5.5, 6, it's like, it's a little cooler, but yeah, it takes away the poison. It's always on fire. Honestly, 5 because yeah,
to
5,
see him
'cause it's
return
kinda
in the
meh.
mainline series. Frozen Barioth. Real ones. Remember when there was a data file leak in Iceborne, and the name Frozen Barioth was found in there, so some of us thought we were going to be getting an Explorer monster in Iceborne. That was a mistranslation, and we wound up with Frostfang Barioth, and honestly, it's fine with me. Frozen Barioth is supposed to be a variation of Barioth that has been subjected to even harsher cold climates, and has thus come to harness the ice element more effectively. A consistent aura of cold emits from around his body, but doesn't seem to do too much mechanically. His body appears to be more frosted over, his tusks have turned a bright blue, and his underside is now a deep purple.
I like the color scheme a lot, but this just sounds, like you said, like Frostfang Barioth or just somewhat souped up Barioth.
Fine color scheme for him, though I do think the bright blue tusks are a little cartoony. He has an admittedly cool attack where his ice projectile creates a much larger ice tornado than that of the normal Barioth, kicks a little bit of chunks of ice up out of the ground, pretty cool effect, and it leaves a lingering ice trap that can inflict a snowman status, and
Which Snowman needs to come back. Same with Mudman, Ossified, all of them. I miss that mechanic. I've said it in basically every one of these videos.
poison for some reason. Is that right?
Poison? I mean, it makes sense he's purple, but where would Barioth get poison? I mean, it's not the first time variant species have had random elemental swaps, but poison? Really?
It's purple. Kind of odd, but okay, something. And unfortunately, that's the bulk of it for fight changes, though he does have a tendency to use this breath attack more frequently than a normal Barioth uses his. Like Flame Rathalos, I won't bother going into potential improvements here because we have a Barioth variant in mainline Monster Hunter who looks a bit better, does more stuff, sells the concept of a Sub-Zero Barioth in a far better way. Just
I wonder if that was an intentional homage to the theme name of the Sub-Zero White Knight, but yeah, I mean, Frostfang is just better.
Just not too much of a reason to implement Frozen Barioth, unfortunately. This one's getting like a 2 for one.
I'm gonna give it 5 because, again, 5 is my rating, so different scales. I'm just gonna give it just whatever.
Sam brought back Immortal Zinogre. You bet your ass that the teacher's pet has a fresh new variation in this game, and it's a neat one. Zinogre is a monster who is very easy to make variations for, because whenever his thunderbugs mutate, he mutates alongside them. By some process, the thunderbugs of an Immortal Zinogre still possess a powerful electric charge. However, they can also steal vitality from other creatures and transfer that vitality back into the Immortal Zinogre.
Okay, I wanted to go, what? But if we think about it, that is something that insects in Monster Hunter can do if we take a look at the Kinsects with Insect Glaive. If you target the right part of a monster, it can suck healing juice out of it, give it to you. It sounds questionable until you think about it from the Kinsec point of view, in which case it makes more sense. That said, it still feels like it makes sense thinking about it like that, but it still feels a little
He has a special charging animation that you need to knock him out of, or else he will recover health. As he gets weaker, he will try to do this more often. It's a pretty cool mechanic, though.
It's a cool mechanic in concept, but it feels like it'd be really annoying to deal with.
I have a sneaking suspicion that a mechanic like this was partially implemented to run down quest timers. I am aware that there were gacha mechanics in Explore. Additionally,
yeah, that.
He is capable of firing off up to 5 Thunderbug projectiles at a time during his supercharged state, and
also, I don't know if I like the green-blue color scheme for Zinogre. It doesn't really feel right to me.
These projectiles track like the Stygian Zinogres do. I feel like there is some neat stuff you can do with a monster who is centered around health recovery. You could have him be one of the more reckless, aggressive, and arrogant versions of Zinogre. Since he can heal his own injuries, you could have him be able to heal over wounded body parts, denying you rewards if you're not persistent in halting.
Ooh! Okay, that is actually interesting. You'd have to make it seem more fair, but if we brought this one into Wilds, imagine it having a similar mechanic to Guardian monsters when they try to heal themselves close their wounds with Wilk. To where this Zinogre can close up the wounds you inflict on it if you don't pop them soon enough. That could be interesting. Feels like it'd be a very annoying mechanic, but it could be a very interesting one. And it does make sense, like, ecological lorely, because, again, Kinsex can do this, so Thunderbug variant being able to do this makes sense, I guess.
His healing charge. You could have him maybe imbue parts of his body with this healing lightning, so he can strike with harder, heavier paw slams that would normally cause him pain. Perhaps there could be certain attacks with which you can steal some of the healing for yourself.
Okay, if you could do that, that immediately changes my mind on him. Obviously, you can't in Explore, but if there was a certain way you could do a thing to take the healing vitality of his Thunderbugs for you, maybe, say, if you knock him down and bug net him, or, capture net him, there's potential there. I kind of like that.
And you could kind of turn the battle into a bit of a tug of war, where you and Zinogre are fighting each other to try and take advantage of the healing power of the Thunderbugs. Could make for a pretty unique duel. Now, as far as the design goes, the in-game model is a little bit too vibrant, and the colors don't quite blend. It's kind of like the blue fangs on Frozen Barioth, little cartoony looking. Not too shocked though, classic Zinogre often struggled when it came to his colors. But you gotta look at some of this art from the Teppen mobile game. Holy
okay, yeah, that
emerald.
Let me back up and look at that again. That looks a lot better. That, The green on Zinogre still feels a little weird, but they blended it a lot better in that.
Look at some of this art from the Teppen mobile game. Holy dude. That emerald green mixed in with the...
Interesting art. Diva-like character. But they don't have the pointed ears, so they're not Wavarian. What? Are they a Wavarian? Because it only looks like they got the 3 fingers and the longer hands, but they don't have the pointed ears of a Wavarian.
Blue and the white looks so damn good when you get the shades down perfectly. I stand by what I said in my Zinogre breakdown video. When he's done right, Immortal looks about as good as Stygian. I love...
I don't agree with that. I do agree that Stygian is probably the best look of Zinogre because, red and black is a fantastic color combo, but... And this is from someone whose primary channel colors are green and purple. This, I don't know. If the blue was darker, If the blues and greens were a little darker, I think it would fit better.
Digian's design. The more hook-like pattern for the shockers is also like a neat little design change. Teppen especially made these things look like talons coming off out of his back. I think I'll give Immortals and Ogre like a 6 for wanting to see him in.
I think a 6.5. 6.5, 6.8, high 6 plus, but not quite 7. Yeah.
Mainline Monster Hunter. You could make something pretty interesting out of this. And dang, dude, I just kind of want to see these colors on his Ogre looking this good up and moving around. Black Star Beast Volvodon.
That is a Yu-Gi-Oh card name. That is a very Yu-Gi-Oh card name for a Monster Hunter variant, but he's got an interesting appearance. Don't know why it's so shiny, though.
Okay, this was an annoying one to research. I apologize for any holes in the info. I found one fight of this guy on a video with no comments, nothing on any forums, and the wiki has no information, save for the fact that he is apparently a fire element monster that inflicts water blights and thunder blights and is weak to water. That's all I could find.
That sucks, because, like, Lost Media always sucks.
Because, you know, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
For a while, I thought this was a crossover monster because the name Black Star Beast sounded like it was from something.
Yeah,
No.
it sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Traditional variant type monster. So, Black Star Beast Volvodon is a particularly large Volvodon with an onyx black shell littered with these gleaming white stone-like objects that glitter like stars. Beneath that, he has a vibrant underbelly sporting various shades of blue, cyan, and violet. His belly, I think, is another victim of oversaturation in this game, but these colors are definitely workable and could look good against the black shell if tweaked down slightly. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, if you make his belly a more darker blue, almost like his back segments, but a little more than that, I could see it looking pretty good. I mean, I kind of like it already. Like I said, just tone down the saturation of the blue a little bit. But without knowing much more than this one bit of footage we have,
Trust my own eyeballs here
Can't
and
make
make
too much
an
of a judgment.
educated guess that Black Star Beast Volvodon is indeed a water and lightning wielding monster and not a fire monster. I don't know. Elements were a little different in this game, kind of Pokemon weakness logic. It's odd. So this is an absolutely supercharged version of Volvodon. When he rolls, he has these watery motion blur lines surrounding himself. He can reposition several times in a row. He has an attack where he can repeatedly catapult himself up into the air and comes slamming down into the ground hard at hunters. He has variations on his tongue attacks with a forward-facing lash and a cone and a huge 360-degree tongue attack. He seems to be able to chain his rolling attacks together far more easily and at greater speeds than a normal Volvodon can. His gas discharge attack now hits all the way around him and has a blue coloration to it. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be water element and solid gas mixed together or if they just made the gas blue. You can also sometimes see thunder shocks in these gas clouds that he produces. Occasionally, when he comes slamming down in his rolled up state, a cyclone of water will kick up around him. I can see people hating this fight. The bigger tongue attacks, the constant moving, the tankier health, the elimination of previous weak spots. I'm not gonna lie, this looks pretty annoying. Because on paper, I think some of the stuff this Volvodon can do is really cool. First of all, I think you might want to ditch the 300-degree gas attack cloud. Volvodon is a super fast monster, and eliminating the best time to hit him is kind of obnoxious.
yeah. I need a lot more info to call him fully, but make a judgment call him fully. But from what we're shown, seems like he'd be a pain to fight against, but it does seem like he could be a very interesting subspecies depending on how it was handled. But we don't really have much on him, do we?
Don't mind if you make this attack have a larger cone behind him, but you really shouldn't strip a very fast monster of an opening like this. Second of all, I think you should probably make his cannonball barrage more aggressive and less random, so there's more engaging with the actual attack and less chasing him down in the midst of it. Also, if you're going to give him more movement options, that's fine, but what you should probably do then is buff up his arsenal of regular physical attacks. New stuff like claw strikes and bites and hip checks checks and whatnot, then you're probably going to want to have him balance out his move selection so he can still have his crazy movement, but he doesn't rely on it for the entire fight. If you're going to have a monster with a lot of nutty, debilitating gimmicks, I think that's fine, but you need to be really careful about how those gimmicks are balanced into the movesets and how oppressive and consistent they're going to be.
I mean, yeah, I fully agree with that. I don't really have much to say on this one because, yeah.
Also would want to change up these random water funnels he spawns around him into more realistic water splashes or something. Now, I wanted to offer up these potential fixes for Blackstar Beast Volvidon because I see a lot of potential in him. First of all, it's just a cool design. Second,
I mean, yeah, the design is great, and it would be cool to have an actual Volvidon subspecies because I don't think there is one off the top of my head, but this clearly needs some reworking, and this footage seems to be the only footage of Blackstar Volvidon, so...
secondly, let's think about a Volvidon that uses water and lightning attacks for a second. Volvidons are full-on insectivores. They eat Altaroth and Benahabra, and the toxins and chemicals these creatures have in their bodies is what gives Volvidon its paralytic saliva and stench clouds. So how do you get a Volvidon with these kinds of elemental powers? I'll tell you. Great Thunderbugs and Celtis.
That is actually brilliant.
Think about it. You could have a population of Volvidon who have been successfully outcompeted for their preferred insect diet and are forced to pursue much more dangerous Neopterans that lack more obvious predators. These Volvidon need to evolve to be bigger and stronger and more ferocious, which Blackstar Beast is. And as they start getting good at hunting different Neopterans, their bodies over time are able to process the electrical discharges of Great Thunderbugs, and even though male Celtis don't have water-based attacks, they do contain weak aqua sacs. Hell, Blackstar Volvidons may even be able to take on juvenile Celtis queens. This could explain the water, the more powerful gas attacks, the thunder, the increased size, and the heightened aggression.
That is some fantastic Spec Evo interpretations of what little we're given. That I don't know if the clapping came through, but genuinely clap. That is fantastic, Volcanic. As a perfect fan theory. And I wonder if that was what they intended or not, but very well reasoned.
I'm telling you, man, this could be a wickedly cool Volvidon with some work. I think
it needs a lot of work, but yeah, there is a lot of potential here.
The Blackstar Beast Volvidon in Explore as is right now is probably like a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
He looks like a bit of a time killer. His moveset is not particularly well balanced. It's chaotic and breaks off the fight tempo a ton. But I think you could turn this into a 7 or maybe an 8 out of 10 with a little...
maybe not a 7, but 4 out of 10 as he is. 4 or 5 out of 10 as he is now. But you could bring him up to a 6 or a 7. Haha, funny number, brain rot. If you reworked him well enough, and like you said, the potential ecology there makes sense.
A little bit of work. Virulent Giganox.
I don't like your color choice, but more Giganox is more Giganox, and I miss the superior KHEZU.
First of all the clowny color palettes in this game, this is the clowniest one that isn't attempting to be clowny. The render for this guy looks perfectly fine, but in game, this thing is rocking the colors newborn baby boys, freshly painted bedroom walls, blue, and expired mustard yellow brown. What the heck?
Yeah. What is the color scheme?
What happened here? Watching this monster fight for the first time after having seen his render here and there over the years was the equivalent of a Tinder date arriving only for you to realize that she had been using pictures in her profile that were like 5 years old and they weren't a particularly kind 5 years. And the enraged form is not that much better.
It going pinker actually looks better, but
the blue is less silly, but the spots now turn to this washed out pink look.
It's better than the orange.
Anyway, what does he actually do? This is the part that's honestly Alright, Virulent Giganox fights like a baleful Giganox. He brings back the poison, upgrades it, and then goes halvesies with the water element. One entry back, I was talking about if you want very potent gimmicks in a monster, you should probably keep an eye on how you balance its use. I really like how that's done here. The more prominent elemental attacks are split up between water and poison, and as a compromise, Virulent's poison gets upgraded to deadly poison. He also has this venomous looking aura around him, but it looks to be purely for aesthetics, thankfully. His globule projectile attacks and the bomb eggs he can lay on his back are still poisonous, but his body slam now releases water in all directions. Additionally, he has a sweeping bite attack with his head and his tail that can also inflict water blight. When he is enraged, he tends to lean more heavily into his poison attacks. Now, in traditional Monster Hunter, I think this is a very nice split. However, in Explore specifically, I learned that many of the elemental blights got reworked, and that the soaked status, which goes with water, temporarily nullifies armor skills.
What? That is... I need to hear that again, because I am severely hoping that I just had a momentary strunk and I did not hear what I just thought I heard.
That many of the elemental blights got reworked, and that the soaked status, which goes with water, temporarily nullifies armor skills.
Oh, wow. What? Wow. I don't even know how to articulate how that makes me feel, but it's not positive in any sort of way. That it wouldn't. No. Just no. That is quite possibly one of the worst things I've ever heard in one of these spin-off Monster Hunter exploration. I genuinely feel like I'm having an aneurysm hearing that. Wow. Let's just move on before I think about this too hard.
Let's keep that in Explore, please.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this is pretty decent. He definitely needs...
Yeah, okay. Think happy thoughts, think more Giganox. Don't ignore horrifying water bite reworks.
A couple of his own attacks, a slightly broader roster of water and poison maybe, but I do like this idea. I think what you could do for Virulent Giganox, besides simply deepening the move pool, is fix up the colors, please. And with some blending and adding of additional shades, you could make Virulence, I suppose, look more like he's trying to camouflage into a certain environment.
I mean, the render over here looks a lot more ice camouflaged than it is in game, but you just extrapolate this to be a bit more of an ice camo, the appearance would be fine. And more Giganox is good if we don't have aneurysm-inducing water bite mechanics.
This bet is probably something along the lines of a coastal region. Could explain the water attacks and the blue colors. You could turn Virulent Giganox into something of a coastal stalker who sticks to shorelines, either grabbing fish with his rubbery neck or ambushing unsuspecting Ludroth. Heck, if you want to get really dark, perhaps he poisons bodies of water and waits for whatever turns up dead for him to eat.
That's a little bit of a reach, but...
Perhaps he lives in caves nearby rivers, lakes, or oceans, and strikes out at night to hunt. I think you could build a pretty decent ecology around this. He looks kind of silly in the tundra.
I don't think you necessarily need to rework him to be a coastal variant, though you could. Honestly, this camo could work for a ice camouflage, especially in a more blue ice region. Just tweak it a little bit.
That's for damn sure. I'll give Virulent Giganox a nice center of the road 5.
I'm gonna give, because again, 5 for me is meh. So I'm gonna give him a 6 as he is, 6.5 in potential. But I do want more Giganox, Capcom. We've had enough, KHEZU. Give us the other creepy cave boy.
Do some stuff with him, but I don't see anything here that I want too badly. He'd make for a perfectly decent variant, I think. Ice Blast Brachydios.
This is the last thing in the Frontier videos we covered. No. Okay, I'll have to see the thing here all talking about it first, because there's a slim chance I'll come around. But what did you do to Bracky? Why did you do this to him?
What if the slime mold of a Brachydios was even more difficult to escape? What if it froze your limbs solid, leaving you helpless as the countdown timer to detonation begins? Enter Ice Blast Brachydios, quite the straightforward name. This spokesman for Icy Hot does everything a Brachydios can, but with a frosty edge to it. The core gimmick here is that when Ice Blast slime mold detonates, it gives off a fiery burst and then instantly freezes. So if you get caught up in one of his punches or massive explosions, you'll take the damage, be coated in blast blight, and then locked up in the snowman status. You are slowed down and unable to use items or draw your weapon as a ticking clock starts counting down and Ice Blast Brachydios prepares to launch another hit. The combination of debuffs here is really cool because Brachydios is constantly trying to preemptively deal massive damage by detonating the slime he places on you before you can shake it off by punching you. The snowman status makes it tougher for you to block or evade or use an item to deter him, so it adds a level of intensity to dealing with the blast status. Doesn't seem too overwhelming or anything, just a nice step up from the regular Brachydios. His roars will cause a sheet of slippery ice to form around him, and any of his attacks that typically create massive puddles of slime, such as his headbutt, will also create said sheets of ice, as well as these 4 huge ice spikes appearing up out of the ground. This adds an extra layer of intensity to the duel, as Ice Blast Brachydios has made a large portion of the zone unsafe. These spikes will eventually detonate as well. This guy has an excellent knack for zone control, causing the battlefield to progressively become more hazardous, but
I can see the vision here. I can almost see the vision here of like it's the exothermic reaction or whatever is so intense that it sucks all the heat out of the surroundings and the explosion freezing it. It almost makes sense. But the execution of this design, I don't like this at all.
Nothing here looks unmanageable. Now, this is a monster where I kind of like the wild spikes all over the place.
No. Okay, here's where personalities and ideas diverge, because I despise this. I can almost see what they were going for with the potential chemical reactions in the slime mold, but everything else about this is just so wrong. It just does not look or feel or even remotely seem correct.
Ice Blast Brachydios is a monster that specializes in frozen explosions, so it kind of makes sense to me that he has a lot of these wild, jagged-looking spikes on his back and his horn and his arms and his tail, and almost all of these elements have amazing colors to them. The deep burning red at the interior that darkens and then gives way to the frosty blues and whites. It looks as if he had explosions detonate all over his body that were then frozen in time.
The only part of the design that I do like is his gauntlets. Everything else just no.
He looks especially sick when he's enraged because his pounders ignite, which creates this amazingly accentuated fire and ice dichotomy on him. The only issue I have with the design is mostly just executional. There are a few texture and proportion issues with the in-game model. The ends of his horn and pounders are oddly huge and very rounded off. It makes them look kinda swollen. If you look at his render, you can tell that the darker parts of the horn and the pounders are just supposed to be his discolored shell. His pounders specifically have grown so hot that some of the shell has cracked and broken away. To me, the texture work on the in-game model for the non-ignited pounders looks kind of unnatural, a little bit metallic, and at the very least, the cracked shell is way too clean cut. The design just needs a couple of little touch-ups and
A lot more than a couple of touch-ups. I do not like this at all.
It's perfect. I think you can
No,
very
it's
easily
not.
explain a species of Brachydios that found a particularly rare slime mold in polar regions. The mechanical changes are a fun step up for the
I can see where they're coming from with the concept around this version of the slime mold, where, like I say, it sucks all of the heat out of the area in its explosion, thus icing it over. I can get that to an extent, but the rest of it just doesn't feel right at all.
regular Brachy. The concept is excellent, and the design is almost where it needs to be. Yeah, this is a banger for me. Might
No.
need, like 2 or 3 attacks to call its own, since this is so far just 3rd generation Brachy with Snowman and Ice Spikes, but yeah, no, that's going to be a 9 for wanting this guy in mainline.
You know what? 3. I'm giving this a 3. There is slight potential, like I said, with the potential, like ecology, chemical reactions of the slime mold, with the execution of how they went about it, and I hate this. I do genuinely. I'm gonna give it a 3 because it feels wrong on so many levels to me.
My Monster Hunter. This is excellent. Fierce
No.
Water Nargacuga.
Okay, reset your brain. Fierce Water Nargacuga. Water Nargacuga. I mean, I like the color scheme of it, but you're gonna have to do some work to convince me for a water element Nargacuga.
Water is a pretty sick element to add to a Nargacuga. I figured the idea came from those water cutter jets. You know how if you get water moving so fast and it's such a high pressure it can cut through solid objects? You'll see this in anime too. So this is a Nargacuga who ups his slicing power with the use of high pressure water. He predominantly does this with the use of these reed-like openings at the ends of his wing spikes and tail. These holes eject high pressure bursts of water that allow Nargacuga to strike much harder and faster, whilst creating damaging watery discharges in the wake of several of his attacks.
Okay, it works on the wings to at least an extent, but at the tail is throwing me on this one.
Much like Ice Blast Brachydios, this is more or less the moveset of a 3rd generation Nargacuga, but with one overarching mechanic that alters the dynamic of the battle drastically. You may often see Fierce Water Nargacuga charging up his spike shots, wing attacks, and tail slam, and you'll see a little bit of mist building up around the body part he's going to strike with, before he lunges out with a high-speed blitzing fury. Anytime you see him holding an attack windup like this, it means the attack is going to be incredibly fast and be backed by a watery burst. My favorite is the Triple Pounce combo, where he can pull off this blindingly fast. His 360-degree tailspin has a similar accelerated intensity to it. One of his coolest changes is that when he does his infamous tail slam, he expels a ton of water from his tail and wings that creates a massive aquatic burst around him. He also is more likely to fling his tail spines than the regular Nargacuga. Much like the Nargacuga of Iceborne, these tail spines will stay in the ground for a little while and can inflict bleeding on contact. Overall, I think this is a super cool idea.
It is a neat idea. I'm coming around to it, but I feel like it would need a redesign.
High pressure water to enhance the power and speed of every attack,
redesign.
making them blindingly quick. It's a toned down version of Gourea Domos's gimmick in Frontier, with a little bit more finesse, I think. Looking at it as an animal, this one's a little tough. What circumstances would make it necessary for a Nargacuga to have so much water in its body and then need to expel it like this? He fights in the watery areas of the deserted island, so this could be a case of a Nargacuga hunting in these more open coastal areas and not having access to the trees and foliage that typically offers the species the camouflage it needs to ambush its prey. Perhaps
the idea has some merit, but the question of how this Nargacuga came to be, I mean, strange things have happened, and in series ended badly, but if it was ever going to come back, it would need some major reworkings and a strong explanation as to why.
The species of Nargacuga needed an additional burst of speed in order to catch prey without its typical stealthy advantages, and somewhere down the road, its body developed ways to make use of the water in this environment, storing it in the body and using it for propulsion. It's a bit of a goofy explanation, but it's the best I got at the moment. The design is super sick, especially the colors. The gorgeous looking dark blue mixed with accents of black on the back, tail, wings look amazing. The more teal blue on the eyes and ears blends quite well. The
blue Nargacuga is nice. I do like that. There's potential here, but it needs a lot of reworking for me to say I like it.
Underbelly is an odd choice, but they smartly didn't make it too vibrant. I originally felt like this rigid plating on the wing blades kind of contradicted the swifter, sleeker feel that this Nargacuga was going for, but I think they serve more to protect the water dispersal apparatuses in the wings. The water pump end on the tail definitely, I guess, makes sense with the powers, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't look a little silly. I'd be curious to see how they'd go about explaining this guy, but he's definitely cool. I think water is a very fitting element for Nargacuga. I think
honestly, not really. I could see a lot more things before water. Ice before water. I could see like a frost blade Nargacuga, something like that. I could see a blazing like a fire Nargacuga more. Be a bit of a weird choice, but I could see that. Maybe poison Nargacuga is easy. I think some of them already have poison anyway. But water just doesn't feel right.
His choice is excellent, and the way he uses water somewhat to create elemental bursts, but much more so to bolster his physical prowess, is a very fun way to implement an element.
Yeah, the way the water is used, I like. It's just that it's used is confounding me.
Gonna give this guy an 8 out of 10.
I'll give it 5. Now, an old gold lightning Kirin. I like Kirin better blue, but we'll
Thunder Emperor Kirin, or as I like to call him, lore accurate Kirin. This guy looks terrifying, and your opinion of him is probably going to come down to what you think of Kirin. I personally love Kirin, so I'm on board.
I do like Kirin. It is a fun and very interesting monster, but the gold isn't doing it for me. I think Orochi Kirin just looks wise as a far better Kirin variant, and it makes sense too then, because Rajang predating on Kirin for their horn would thus induce a version of Kirin meant to deal with that. Orochi Kirin makes sense. This, maybe it's a glandular problem like Thunderlords and Ogre.
Has a very classic monster variant vibe. By age, experience, or some bodily process, a Thunder Emperor Kirin was able to rise above the power level of the usual members of the species and elevate its control of lightning to a godly status.
It's just Super Saiyan Kirin.
Drastic mechanical changes here. It's just very, very,
it's Super Saiyan
good
Kirin
at being a Kirin. You're probably going to want to pack Paralysis Negate for this duel because the golden bolts of a Thunder Emperor Kirin have a higher chance to paralyze than those of a typical Kirin. For the opening round of this fight, you'll see him use a lot of moves that the typical Kirin has, but the quantity of the bolts is sometimes increased, especially when he rains down bolts on himself. There seems to be a few more bolts in this version of the attack than for the normal Kirin. And if that seems unfair, well, bear in mind, this also goes for attacks where the bolts are hitting away from him, which means some of his openings are actually a little bit more generous. So that sounds a little annoying, but honestly, that is the least interesting part of the movesets. This Kirin teleports. Yeah, right out of the crazy lore books that claim, oh man, he moves so fast that you can't even see him.
I mean, other tuned-up versions of Kirin can do that, and I think it is good to have Kirin have lore accurate speed.
Moving. Regular Kirin has never teleported. Books say he can, never happened. But this one does. Boom. gone. Appears on the other side of the map, and then he follows that with these like
That is
mini
fun.
burst teleporting charge attacks. Sometimes he does like several of the things in a row, and then he's zipping all over the place. And dude, when he gets pissed, he just unleashes the wrath of God and brings down these just sheets of lightning firing off over and over and over and over again in these moving patterns, and he starts charging and zipping around again, and oh man, dude, this looks f***ing sick.
Alright, so my one contention with this, given that this is basically just, again, Super Saiyan Kirin, go full in on that. Have it look more like a maybe bigger, more prominent horn base Kirin, and then when it enrages, its lightning goes gold, its fur turns this way, make more Super Saiyan, give it even more of a Super Saiyan vibe, I guess, but I think that would make it have a bit more of an impact rather than it being gold by default.
Or wouldn't be tough. This is either, you know, like a really old Kirin, or a Kirin that has endured dozens of battles and has honed its lightning so effectively that he changes colors. Just pick an explanation. The design is tough as hell, man. It's nothing crazy. He's a golden Kirin with black accents and an orange horn. Perfect. I think the fact that his long-range lightning attacks leave him exposed.
Yeah, leave the horn orange in base, but have it be a more paler gold in initial, and have its lightning be the same blue. And then when it enrages, its gold darkens to a true gold color more than like the pale white yellow. And I think I'm coming around on it. I'm kind of liking this. Not as much as Orochi Kirin,
is a
but
decent trade-off with a heightened bolt count. If you really want to balance out the craziness, you could potentially take away his ability to harden his scales on his body. You know, just a little bit of give and take to make sure this battle isn't too obnoxious or anything. I know not everyone likes Kirin. Tough. Make your own.
I've never had problems with Kirin. I always thought they were fun. Though they were what made me eventually drop Greatsword and move to Hammer and Freedom Unite.
YouTube channel. Lore accurate Kirin gets a 9 out of 10.
I'm not gonna give him a 9. I think 7, 7.5 around there, because ultimately it is just souped up gold Kirin. If it like I say, if we had it look closer to base Kirin and then go gold and glowy, give you more of an, when it enrages, give you more of an oomph factor to it, might bump it up a bit. But I'm gonna say a 7, 7.5.
From me, Explosive Peak Duramboros. This is a neat idea. You got a big mountainy brute wyvern, you give him the fire element, make him a giant volcano brute wyvern. Bada bing, bada boom, Explosive Peak Duramboros. Now, here's the coolest thing about this guy. Due to the habitat he lives in, the color of his hide, and the shape of his tail, Explosive Peak Duramboros may very well be an offshoot of the Rust Duramboros specifically. Now
that does make sense. I can see that.
Sick. There's only one other instance I can think of where a monster's variation had its own variation, and that is the risen form of the Crimson Glow Volstrax. However, the risen state isn't a natural occurrence, it's a forced transformation caused by a different life form. Explosive Peak Duramboros may very well be a naturally occurring variant of a naturally occurring subspecies. That's incredibly unique for this game.
That is actually pretty interesting ecology. I don't know if I like the monster itself, though.
And as you can see, this species of Duramboros has had one of its humps burst open, and it is now leaking a superheated substance that looks like magma. We know that the humps of a Duramboros contain a ton of fat and nutrients, which the beast can burn through to maintain its energy during a prolonged battle. Perhaps this is what happens when a Rust Duramboros pushes itself way too hard and overheats. A Rust Duramboros that is able to survive this process could learn to harness the fire element and become an Explosive Peak Duramboros. I do think that the ecological potential here is definitely the most interesting thing about Explosive Peak as he is so far. A lot of his tail slams and sweeps come back with huge bursts of fire in their wake, makes for some cool looking effects, but there aren't many new attacks like Thunder Emperor Kirin, or particularly transformative mechanics like there are for Fierce Water Nargacuga. I think he definitely deserves more. Maybe he could occasionally fire a mortar shot of fire out of his back. Maybe fire comes spewing out of him when he's in the middle of doing a spin attack. Maybe.
So, I think if you put, instead of having him be in like a sandy plain type locale, instead you put him in a volcanic region, it would work a lot better.
When he does his hip check attack.
But I don't like volcanic on fire-ness with bird monsters. It just doesn't feel right.
Some fire could go spilling out in the direction of the check. You could have it so that fire goes everywhere when he launches himself up into the air. Actually, man, how sick would that be if you got this giant monster shooting up into the air and careening back down to Earth with these globs of magma raining down?
There is a lot of potential here, but I feel like it would need a major rework. Like,
everywhere, that'd be kind of wild. Really the concept just needs more fleshing out.
Yeah, if it was fleshed out a bit more, maybe in a volcanic region instead of just desert.
Think there's a lot you can do with a fire element Durambros, especially given the position of the fire on his body. And the design is pretty damn good. Very much Russ Durambros.
The design's all right. It could be better.
But with a little bit more red than pink. I think he looks particularly amazing when he's enraged. His hide turns a very ashy gray, and the lava detailing on his back starts to glow more brightly. Definitely a solid idea, just needs some work. I think this is one of the more feasibly addable monster variants we've had in this video so far. As he is an explorer, I think the lack of expansion on the fight puts him at a 6 out of 10 for me, but I think there is potential worth an easy 9 out of 10 for Explosive.
Nah, I wouldn't go that far. 5.5, because there's a little more to it than just being completely neutral on it, but not super impressed by it.
It's a peak to Rambros. I would love to see him elaborated on.
I mean, the potential ecology there is neat, but Thunder Bubble Mizutsune. Oh, now this just looks like a Kingdom Hearts enemy.
Thunderbubble Mizutsune. This guy should have already been in Monster Hunter already. Now,
really?
Sunbreak's Violet Mizutsune is a downright phenomenal monster. He is executed brilliantly and is one of the game's best fights. I love that fight. However, he is the third variation of Mizutsune that can use fire. He was introduced in an endgame that had way too many fire monsters in it, and this is the game that introduced Espinass, which was kind of this herald that the discontinued Monster Hunter games may see their monsters brought into mainline Monster Hunter. We saw the silhouette of a Mizutsune alongside Flaming Espinass in Sunbreak's roadmap, and so many of us thought it was going to be Explorer's Thunderbubble Mizutsune. Glad we have Violet. Violet Mizu is stellar. Would love to see him come back. But let's talk about the dude that got snubbed. Thunderbubble Mizutsune is, once again, not a difficult monster to figure out the nature of, as is the case with many of these Explorer special species.
I mean, it's in the name. It's a Mizutsune with Thunderblight.
You have the moveset of a 4th generation Mizutsune with a mechanical twist. This time, some of the Mizutsune's bubbles are amped up with an electrical charge. The fun twist here is that these thunder bubbles are attracted to any creature or hunter who is already covered in the Mizutsune's bubble blight. This makes the already potentially hazardous bubble blight a lot more lethal. And he has attacks that can generate up to 8 of these thunder bubbles at a time. They ain't small either, though they do move pretty slow. Adding to the electrical prowess of this creature, Mizutsune's water beam is now a crackling lightning beam, which looks amazing, by the way. Additionally, he has a neat mechanic unrelated to his core gimmick, where he can cover certain parts of his body in bubbles. This bubble armor can absorb some damage. It's a cool little extra detail to just throw on him. For a bit, I was wondering how you could explain a Mizutsune gaining electrical power.
Yeah, it is a little odd, but it's not the craziest thing.
So I took a look at Soul Seer Mizutsune. We know that Soul Seer can add an explosive component to his bubbles and water beam due to its preferred diet of burst arowana fish. So then, for Thunder Bubble Mizutsune, we could either invent a type of fish for Monster Hunter that is some form of bioelectricity, or we could just give it a diet of something like electrical eels to explain these powers. We have another really good color scheme, pale blue, nearly white scales with gorgeous...
The color scheme is fantastic. It seems like a pretty solid Mizutsune subspecies. Not particularly mind-blowing, but it seems like it'd be a fun hunt.
Just dark blue fur and little splashes of yellow patterns on the fins. I do think the in-game model leans a little too much into the blue on the scales, though. I don't think the colors work quite as well together as they do on the render. He does look really sick when he's enraged, though. The fins start to darken, and you get this electricity surging through him. It looks dope. All around, really cool stuff here. Giant thunder bubbles trying to track you down and murder you sounds like a lot of fun. The design's great. I bet there's a few other things you could throw in that are lightning related to make this fight really pop. I'm a fan of this guy. We'll give Thunder Bubble Mizutsune an 8 out of 10 for...
I'll give him a 7 because, well, it seems like it's a really good, solid subspecies. It is lacking something to give me a true, huge wow factor to it. Maybe my opinions would change if I actually got to hunt it, but I think a 7. 7's a fair... 7's fair, right? It's not it's not especially mind-blowing, but it does seem to be a pretty solid subspecies.
Wanting to see him come back. Shining Rock Uragan. Dang, dude, why doesn't Steel Uragan look this good in the main games?
Yeah.
This glittering, gleaming Goliath is what happens when Uragan find their way into the snowy tundra and feast upon a particular type of ore. What that is specifically, I got no idea. But
ice crystals, maybe.
It has altered the biology of the Uragan rather drastically. Instead of massive fiery blasts, the rocks dropped by a Shining Rock Uragan glow purple and burst with a poisonous gas. The poison also appears to have seeped into the scoots on his back as well, as he is capable of wrapping himself in poison as he rolls around. This predates the normal Uragan engulfing himself in fire as he rolls by at least a couple of years, which is pretty cool. His sleep and fire gas attack has been replaced with a freezing gas that can inflict a snowman status. This freezing gas
I miss Snowman.
Can make the ground around Shining Rock Uragan slippery, and a similar effect is created when his poisonous rocks explode. The blast sizes of these poison rocks are massive, by the way, though they can be destroyed before they detonate. That's pretty much what it's got. He's pretty on par with the quality of a third-generation subspecies, and I think the poison-ice combination isn't half bad. However, I don't think it's particularly quite as good a match as Ice and Blast, which we saw earlier.
I don't understand how you like that one. I really don't.
There are also a few less changes to this fight than there are with Ice Blast Brachydios, and on the whole, I do like Brachy more than I like Uragan, so this is kind of what's working against Shining Rock Uragan for me. This feels like a less impressive Ice Blast Brachy, which isn't entirely fair, but what I'm saying is I do think I've seen this kind of idea done better within this same exact game.
Honestly, I like this Uragan subspecies. Not, like, particularly massively, but it works.
What I do find compelling here is the design. Shining Rock Uragan lives up to the name and has a great upgrade over the Uragan we normally see in the games. Uragan's hide is
It honestly makes me think of Bismuth.
supposed to be metallic, but it never really has that look to it. Uragan, Steel, and Shining Rock all have a metallic sheen in this game, with Shining Rock looking especially great due to the lighting of the map he's on. This is how these guys should be looking, and I actually really like the color scheme in general. The steel body with purple scoots and a red underbelly. The blue chin kinda feels maybe like one color too many though.
Yeah, if you gave the blue chin the more pinky crystal of the belly or the more purpley crystal of the back, it would look a bit better. But I like this one.
So I don't feel this way about Steel Uragan. Maybe it just comes down to the specifics of the colors. Yeah, there's nothing bad here, but I do feel like this game specifically has done this concept better. You could maybe do some stuff with visibility, with him kicking up a bunch of snow when he rolls around. You could have his chin slams send up small ice projectiles flying everywhere. Yeah, this is perfectly fine for what it is. And I like Uragan more than most people, so yeah, 6 out of 10 for one.
Yeah, Yeah, 6 out of 10. I'll go with that too. I like it. Not as much as some of the other ones, not as much as the original ones, but it's not bad. But also, I think that this is where I am going to call it. We will finish up the last few serious and then the silly ones next stream, and then do something else afterwards. Maybe, like I said, check out the one he has on the Geocris. Maybe something else. Not sure what the one after next will be, but next one will be finishing off with this. But if anyone has any closing remarks they'd like to make before we end things, because I'm starting to get a little tired. Probably time to end this. We've been going for 2 hours. More than 2 hours on it. Not sure exactly how long it's been. Let me check with OBS. 2.5 hours. Okay. If anyone... Alright. Nice to know you're still here, Masup. But yeah, if you got any thoughts to share on what we've seen so far, now's the time. Because otherwise, we'll be calling it. But this was fun to get a look at some of these. And yeah, the original monsters, I think, were really, really fun. And I'm definitely going to have to work them into some of the ideas I had for potential Wilds expansion. Because I want to either make a like sequel or side version to the Elder Tide one I did a while back, where it's like a Z rank beyond master rank expansion theorizing. I still need to workshop that in my brain. But yeah, I think this is where we're gonna call it. No more closing thoughts seem to be said. So yeah, this was great. It's been really fun to check out the monsters from the games I never got to do. I know the ones from 4th gen through Rage Gaming. I think he mentioned Rage Gaming before, but yeah, it's been fun to check this out, and still don't really know how to end stream, so goodbye and good night, or goodbye and good whatever time period it is for y'all. Check out the next one whenever that happens. You'll have about an hour